So this video is a little different than the usual ones I put on my channel. For that reason, I'm going to explain a little bit about it, and I'm also going to introduce myself because I have a feeling this is going to be watched by some people that don't usually watch the other videos. My name is Joseph Anderson, and I have played Fallout 76 for almost 100 hours. I am a games critic and sort of a streamer, and I played 76 for that much in order to do a video on it that has since been released. This video is all about cataloging all of the glitches that I encountered while playing the game. And while that's probably been overdone at this point, I thought it might be important to have a video that is just from one perspective, one person's journey with the game, and all of the glitches and problems that they encountered just as one playthrough that was, like I said, almost 100 hours. The clip that's playing right now is one of the few times that loading into the game took 2 to 3 times longer than it usually did. Now, what's special about this one is that this is after the latest patch that went into the game at the time of recording. It is February 5th right now when I'm recording this, and not only did it have a problem with taking too long, it also did this that's on the screen at the moment. It failed to load for the first time. It also shows this weird psychedelic background that is unrelated to the load screen. You'll see in a second when it does finally finish loading that this is what is meant to be on the screen after loading is finished. And for whatever reason, it tried to load it and it messed up. And yeah, there you go. This is what it was supposed to do. The lighting also changes in a second here, which I thought was a bit weird, but yeah, you're first loading into the game, but so that's how it is. Yeah, so this video is going to be going through all the glitches that I found. It's probably unnecessary, but I think it's important to have that there as a proof of how bad this game was and how poorly it was put together. And we're going to start with the duplicating camp glitch. So as you play the game, you will move your camp around the world map and make a base that is mobile, and you'll have crafting stations like this cooking one that failed to load for some reason with the menu, and you'll also have containers that you can see in the back. Oh, it worked. There you go. It showed up on the screen after all. Containers in the background that you can store stuff in. Containers are all linked to the same inventory, so it doesn't matter how many you put down. They're just decorative. One container will link to the whole thing. I think you can even store stuff in the camp box directly. So what you're going to see here is that right now it's a normal camp. This is probably the second camp I've put down. As you can see, or maybe you saw just a second ago, there were 2 camping stations there, 2 cooking fires there. And the reason why there are 2 is that every single time I moved my camp, everything that I built would duplicate itself. I haven't realized that yet. I just misremembered and thought that I maybe had built 2 campfires. And I haven't realized that yet, and I have no idea what's waiting for me. So this is just a standard camp, you know, the cooking stations, some boxes that I put down, and yeah, just a normal thing here. Some workshops, a weapons bench, and an armor workbench. And yeah, so that's it. I have no idea what's waiting for me. And then we move on to the other one. This is the 3rd camp I think I built, and as you can see in the top right, I had 8 cooking stations. And I'm putting them down now, and I'm really bewildered at this point because in the second camp, I thought, okay, this is a little weird. Why do I have 4 now? And now I have 8, and it's really dawning on me what's happening here. So I'm putting them all down as an experiment to see what would happen when I go to the next camp, and I'm doing the same for my weapons workbenches and everything else. I have 4 of those. And I'm very confused, and I'm also excited because I have an inkling about what's about to happen. And here are all my stash boxes that I'm stacking into a tower that kind of snap together like Lego blocks and become their own thing that stores on its own. It stores the whole tower instead of the pieces. Yeah, so here's the next camp, which as you can see now, they're all stacked up as their own tower. And I'm putting on my chemistry station, and here we go. Cooking stations are now up to 16. So we've gone from 8 to 16. And I'm having a lot of fun explaining to Mandalore about what's happened to the camp. There's a little bit of lag here. The servers were really laggy this night. And I'm putting them all down, and I'm arranging them the best I can. Even right now, I'm already worried about space. And I'm concerned that I'm not going to be able to get them all down because we had a camp on this cliff. But I get it done. And yeah, there you go. There's my tower boxes. And we're up to 16 cooking stations. Here's the next one that we made on a hill that has a bit more space. And as you can see, I have 32 cooking stations now. So every single time it is just doubling. So my guess is that it puts them back into the camp storage space and it's meant to destroy the other ones that were already out in the world, and instead of doing that, it just draws them back in at the same time. That's my amateur guess, but who knows, it could be anything. For some reason, this dog is just hanging out. Oh, now it's attacking me. Okay, cool. I completely forgot about the dog. Same thing with the weapons workbenches and everything else, and as you can see, the storage crates behind me as well. So there's my beautiful cooking stations. Oh, we're on the next one now, and this I think is the best one. I have 64 now. Yep, 64. I get higher than this, but I think this is the best one for how it looks. So now I'm arranging them kind of on in lines, kind of on a grid, because I want to maximize space. Because I was enjoying myself doing this part. And yeah, you'll get to see them all right now. Yep, there they are. There's my beautiful arrangement with my tower boxes. Yeah, 64 cooking stations, all in the street. Other people can see this as they're walking around, and I have to wonder if anyone found my camp while I was gone from it, and what they thought of me and my arrangement. So a little thing that happened with the next one is I don't know if it jumped ahead, X-Men style, or if I just forgot to record some part of my playthrough, or I just couldn't find it. I went through all my footage, so I think if it had been there, I would have found it. I have 320 cooking stations now, so I don't know if it just duplicated too many more times or anything, or if I just missed one of my recordings, but yeah, 320 is pretty bad. This is another glitch that can happen with your camp, and it's probably because I have so much stuff down. The interface won't show up when you try to use the workstations, so you have to just cancel out of it and just roll the dice again when you use it. And I think all of them are bugged out in this clip. None of them work at all. It's pretty bad. It's pretty frustrating. Sometimes you can get stuck in them too, and we'll see that a little later. Whenever you exit out of your workbench, you'll just get thrown back into it right away, and you'll have to hope that you can get yourself free. And the last clip we're going to see here from this section is when they fix the bug. So this is after a patch. I think this was at the end of December, and as you can see, I have 107 cooking stations. So for whatever reason, it settled at 107, or maybe 107 is the amount that I could put in the previous campsite because I ran out of space. I couldn't put all 320 down. So we have 107 and I put them down, and then much to my dismay, the bug was dead and they fixed it. And I didn't have the duplicating camp glitch anymore. So in the interest of keeping with some of the more interesting glitches at the start of the video, this is one of my favorites. It's the Robot King glitch. So there's a place called the Whitesprings, and it's in the middle of the map, and it is patrolled and maintained by an army of robots. When you first come here, they're all hostile to you, but you can go to somewhere on the map and get I think it's a key card that will make them all friendly to you. So when you get here, they won't attack you anymore. I have that key card now, so I'm very eager to explore this place for the first time because the robots are a bit overwhelming. And of course, being the scumbag that I am, I go up to the first friendly robot and think, oh, well, if they're friendly, I can get a lot of XP from killing these one at a time. So let's see what happens. So I take out my super sledge, and I hit this robot, this Assaultron, and so far, or at first, it's okay. The other Assaultron aggroes, and that got me a little worried. But, oh yeah, here's another glitch that happens too. Event tea time has started. That's across the map, but I have no idea why it triggered. I'm nowhere near that. I'm miles and miles away, and yet that triggered for some reason. It's kind of weird. Anyway, so I'm attacking this Assaultron, and now my attacks aren't doing damage because the servers are crapping out, even though it can still move somehow. And the reason for that is that you can see the background right now, it's beginning. These Mr. Handies are appearing because every single robot in the area has aggroed onto me because I attacked this Assaultron. For some reason, it really... the loot table disappears from that robot before I had a chance to loot it. This will be a theme here, as you can see. As I'm hitting them, their corpses will vanish, and you can't loot them. You also don't get XP for some reason. So every robot has aggroed onto me and is coming. And that's why the servers are starting to struggle, because it is just downright overwhelming. I have a theory that the robots are also duplicating as they're coming over too for some reason. If you look carefully, you can see some of them just appearing out of thin air, but that could also be lag. I have no idea what's really going on here. So I'm attacking them, and it's really frustrating. They're not hitting me back, but it's frustrating because I can't really land my hits very well, and it feels like there's no feedback. But it's also really hilarious, and then it soon dawns on me that maybe I shouldn't be fighting them. Maybe I should be leading them out of the place to see if they'll follow me, and Because if this happened in Fallout 4 or any other game, I would try and push it a little bit and see what would happen. And yeah, they're following me. They're anchored onto me pretty hard. They're still not attacking. The other robots in the background are, but these ones aren't. I think there's another player in the area that's following along too, probably wondering what the hell's going on. So you can see the lag. They're stuttering as they're following in a train. And I'm thinking about if I could lead them across the map at this point, but I think I give up on that. I think I get bored, or I decide not to push the servers too hard because I was a little worried, but that doesn't sound like me, so maybe I got distracted by another enemy as we were going. Oh, or the lag got too bad. So yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. I'll try and fill it in as it keeps on going. I think we jump ahead a bit here. Sorry, it's just really funny watching this. I think we jump ahead a bit here to another part of the Whitesprings. And I think my super sledge breaks. My weapon breaks because I'm hitting too many enemies around here. As you can see, the hits aren't landing again. And after it breaks, I die. I got distracted. Oh, there's the guy that's role-playing as Kellogg from Fallout 4. He's just hanging in the air there. So yeah, my super sledge breaks, and then I die. I think the Mr. Handies start hitting me here. Or maybe there's just a lot of guys in the background. But death, I'm still the king. Even after dying, I'm back. And they still want to follow me. So I get up on this cliff here to make my address to my followers. And now they're having none of it. Now they want to kill me. So they're all gathering around. And they will hit me now, even though their animations are completely bugged out. So yeah, no animations, but they're still hitting me because why not? Why not? I start killing them and I destroy all of them. Completely clear it out. And for whatever reason, they stop spawning. Or maybe these were all the ones that aggroed. Then I find their source, and of course, being the shit disturber that I am, I decide to see what happens if I attack them right next to where they spawn. And I kill them all, and there's some problems. And I think they were about to spawn en masse again, and I was going to see their secrets, but no, the server was one step ahead of me, and it crashed. So I'm pretty sure that this crashed the whole server. At least that's what I hope so. Maybe it was just for me. Speaking of crashes, up next I'm going to let part of the video play by itself, which is an audio log of Mandalore and me playing the game and reacting to a crash that happened where voice chat continued even though the game was down, the launcher was off, and we shouldn't have been able to hear each other, but Mandalore could still hear me on his end. I couldn't hear him because he was using push-to-talk instead of an open microphone. Push-to-talk wasn't working anymore, but yeah, he could still hear me, and I'll just let that play by itself.
Oh god, I hear it.
Oh, it loaded. I was just typing, like, maybe we're perma-bugged. It was still loading.
I heard the typing, yeah. What the fuck happened?
Oh, my quests are back.
Possible? Oh god, that's good! I'm glad that the game, you never leave your friends behind, even when you're not playing. Thank you, Todd Howard.
I have to wonder, like, any
keeping the team together, whether you
comments
like it or not.
After the game's done.
Oh, thanks, that's really fun. Can't believe that fucker made me buy this. Fucking hate that stupid asshole. Yeah, Tom? Yeah, Grifter's a fucking idiot. He had me play this game. Oh shit, how's he hearing me?
The quests.
How is that possible? We had everything.
Yeah, I don't know either. It must have still been running somehow, and like because it's a separate program, right? Because you can talk during load screens and shit, and
yeah, but it's like we have the game closed, launcher's closed, but it's like, oh, I can still hear everything.
I don't.
It just works.
It just works. I can't imagine how the developers thought. The coders thought when Todd comes down, from his nest and says, we're going to make an online Fallout game. Like, oh no. Okay, what's the new engine? There isn't one. Oh no.
I mean, because when the game was lagging, the voice wouldn't. So they clearly do have it on something separate.
Yeah.
But it's like, what is that's separate?
I'm finding it hard to hear you now. Does it reset your sound options every single time you...
Maybe.
I can't... The volume slider is lagging.
Oh, yeah. You have to, click on the end. If you try to drag it, you will never do it. Yeah. I don't know. I do not know. I've tried to drag it, and it doesn't work. It goes like half a pixel to the left. So you just click on the end. That's how sliders work.
Did robots also make the game? Like, who the fuck does...
Actually, the robots procedurally generated a crank for the options menu. Then the good boys of Bethesda said make it a slider.
So speaking of Mandalore, we encountered quite a few glitches as we played together. This one is triggered by a load screen. So when you go into a new area, you have a chance of losing all of your clothes and armor, but it's only a visual bug. So you'll still have them on your screen, but the other player will see you as naked. So I see Mandalore as naked here, no armor, no clothes, and then I tell him,
What do you mean, why am I naked? What?
This happened quite a few times. Probably would happen more often if there are more load screens, but there aren't that many load screens to go inside to places, at least not ones that we encountered together. Sometimes when you go out from inside load screen into the world, you can still be naked. And here's another one of where we are both naked, I think, when we go through this load screen. And this is the most messed up one where he is naked but also in power armor. And as you can see, his chest and arms and legs are deformed because the game still thinks he's in power armor. It's pretty creepy. Speaking of glitches that happen when you load into areas, here's one that is about flickering. So the world will flicker, or the rooms will flicker when you go into them. There's multiple glitches in this one here that I'm playing it multiple times. First of all, you're meant to be frozen in place when you go through a load screen into a new area, but I can move before loading is done, which is not meant to happen. Then it pushes me back into the start of the room, and as I go forward, the flickering stops. There's another glitch here where enemies in this area already know I'm in here and they are firing from across the map. And I'll shut up so you can hear it when it plays. This area is where I encountered this bug the most. It happened 3 separate times. There's some other glitches that happened in this area too, but it wasn't the only room that this happened. As you can see here, it happens. I think it goes on for longer in this room, which is another area, the Whitesprings actually, with some fancy paintings and everything. I have no idea what's causing this one. There's another glitch involving flickering that if you're sensitive to flashing lights, you might want to look away from the screen for a little bit because it's a lot more intense than what we just saw on the screen right now. And this one is about VATS. Sometimes when you use VATS and you are done with VATS, whether you run out of action points or the enemy dies or something, it does this. Yeah, I have no idea. So that's the shortest one, and there's 3 more of these that we're going to look at. So here's a mangy rad rat. And I think it dies. No, I run out of action points. And yep, there it goes again. It goes on for twice as long this time, I think. It's not always this weapon, though. Sometimes it happens with melee weapons. And yep, I think this is the longest one that I had. I have no idea what's causing this. I think it's trying to go back into VATS mode, maybe. I'm just guessing, though. And here's the last one, which I use a Gatling gun or Gatling laser gun. Yeah. I have no idea. Very uncomfortable. And if you looked away because you didn't want to see that because you're sensitive to or anything, it's safe to look back at the screen now. So there are other problems involving shooting guns, but this time they're on the enemy side. So sometimes enemies will fire at you without aiming their gun at you. So they're just locked into this sort of half idle animation. And as you can see, he is just shooting without moving at all. You may also notice that his gun is exploded, and we'll be seeing more of that later, but I think we'll be seeing this a bit in some of the clips right now. So here it is again. I have quite a few of these. I could probably fill about half an hour with examples of this, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to show you some of them. Sometimes enemies, the Scorch, will be in these positions and then they'll snap out of them. And this is usually when they don't aim their guns properly, and his gun is completely bugged as well. Sometimes shooting them once will knock them out of it, but not always. So this one, his gun is completely messed up, as you can see, and he is also not going to aim it at me while he's firing. And we have another one here. I think this one has a combat shotgun. Yep. This one snaps upright when I get close. Sorry, it just looks ridiculous every single time. Yeah, this happened more than it didn't with them snapping upright like that. Oh, this guy's attacking through a wall. I lumped this one in with the other ones that aren't aiming. He can attack through a wall. And these robots aren't creating projectiles to fire at me. They're also not doing damage. At least the one on the left isn't doing any damage. The one below is doing damage. Yeah, they're just shooting nothing. Yeah. This one is shooting at the floor and still doing damage, which is really funny. And this one is firing invisible energy lasers that are doing damage, And as you can see, I can't believe it. I'm looking around. I'm like, where's that coming from? There's no way it's that robot. And then he hits me again. You can see him doing the animation of firing the lasers, but they're just not creating any. And here we have another one here where he is not taking any damage as I'm hitting him, and he's also not aiming his gun, which brings us to other examples of enemies not taking any damage when I'm hitting them. Right off the bat with these ones, I have to say that it's going to be difficult to tell what's caused by lag and what is actually a glitch that is happening with hit detection. The problem with judging a lot of Fallout 76 is that the vast majority of the bugs might actually be the same bug, and that bug is the server and the client side of the game disagree on something, and the server is always going to win, so you will see a lot of problems crop up when it corrects itself on your side. At least I assume that the server is always going to win. I don't see how the client could win that sort of battle when it comes to telling the server where an enemy should be. So here, where I am clearly hitting the monster and it takes no damage, and this one in particular where it hits, causes blood to splatter on contact, we slow it down and see it here, and damage doesn't register, is that a problem with hit detection, or is it just lag? Same for here where I am punching this ghoul over and over and over again, and right at the end, the ghoul decides, no, I'm just not going to take any damage until it finally falls over after eating 2 hits. And we'll see this again and again with enemies all over the game and throughout this section. This one is very strange in that the mole is blocking me, but it's not functioning like a normal block, and it's like I'm having a seizure as I'm trying to hit him with my super sledge here, and it will just not break through until the very end. Some of these ones here are more clearly lag, especially in this section here because a nuke has gone off, but this one here with the scorched, I'm not sure. Like in a previous section we spoke about earlier, I could fill up probably about an hour, maybe more, of these examples, even keeping tight on them with all of the different enemies that resisted attacks. This one is weird because it registers the hit in the UI with a sneak attack in the top left and still doesn't deal any damage. And my thought here as I was playing the game was that if I wait long enough, will it finally register? And will the ghoul die? And unfortunately that never happens. I think this is probably lag again, but it's very strange. He finally becomes active and then I hit him and he dies. This one is 100% lag, and this kind of makes it more complicated instead of clearer because the pop-up will show up here where it says that the server is having problems, and that will justify that the hit didn't register there. You can also see that his weapon has exploded again. But why this makes it more complicated is that you have examples like this one with this mole that's dancing around as he's just eating these hits with no damage, and also this ghoul here, is that it goes on for quite a while after the hit goes on, and there's still no message that pops up like it did with that scorched guy in the tunnel. These ones here around the Whitesprings are even worse because, especially the next one that's about to come up, it goes on for quite a while without that message popping up, which makes me think that maybe it's lag that is just affecting how the enemies work. I'm only guessing, I have no idea. I can say that I can walk around just fine without warping anywhere while this is going on, like between these fights, so it's very strange. This guy just eats a hit right on the head, and then after that he's fine, and then he dies and he acts like a normal enemy. Robots did that quite a lot, although I don't think that should matter. This one is an enemy that is lagged on hitting me as well, so the lasers will miss me and still do damage, or hit me and not do damage. And it's sort of like we're both lagged out, so it's an even fight, I guess. Yeah, so this I think was one of the first ones that I noticed that would do this, and I'm experimenting right now with seeing if I will take damage even when the laser doesn't hit me. There's another one coming up, I think it might be the next clip, where I actually run around a corner to see if the laser will do damage to me even though the enemy doesn't have line of sight. And yeah, here's a guy coming from behind me that's trying to save me from this robot even though I was doing an experiment, but that's okay. Yeah, so this is the one where I'm going around the corner and I'm still taking damage even though the laser isn't hitting me, and we'll do it on this corner now and I'll keep popping back and in and out of cover, and yep, it's doing damage because the server, I believe, still thinks that I'm standing there when that laser goes out because it's just so laggy. This is an example of just how bad the combat is in the game because this affects everything. It not just hit detection, also enemy alert status, where they won't be able to find you, or it just feels like in order to make the game work, they had to shrink the detection of enemy sight and sound in order for the server to be able to handle having all of these enemies and players be online in a persistent world. We'll be seeing more of that later with enemies just walking around me, not realizing I'm there because it's been so suppressed in order to make it work, I believe. Also, something else that's been stripped away from Fallout 4 is that enemies will take damage to their limbs and show visible damage. And robot enemies will show visible damage when you shoot them, but it won't happen when you hit them with a melee strike for some reason. Maybe the server couldn't handle that. This one is a weird example of a super mutant with a minigun that seems to be indecisive about shooting. It's like he can't make a decision and he's only firing a couple shots and then stopping. Compared to that to Fallout 4 where super mutant will just really rail at you on full auto with those guns. It's really strange. A similar issue with this Robo Brain here that Mandalore and I are fighting. There was a few like these, but most of them worked properly, and that is, it never attacked us. It just put the smoke down. It has a gun, it has a ranged weapon. We encountered more later on that would fire at us, but this one wouldn't. For whatever reason, it just never would shoot at us no matter what. This is an example of kind of the same thing happening to me, where I have the crosshair on the super mutant for 3 separate shots, and whether because there's an invisible wall between us, or because of lag, or because there's just no hit detection going on, I do not shoot the super mutant even though it's right in front of me down the hall. It's not all bad though, and the next glitch we're going to talk about has its own special name in my premiere list, which is called the Super Sledge Chronicles. So about halfway through the game, I found this legendary item, the Vampire Super Sledge. Gain brief health regeneration when you hit an enemy, and you can see it in action here. My health is going up a little bit whenever I hit the super mutant. Now, what was special about this is that, surprise, surprise, you don't actually have to hit anything with it. So right now you can see my health is going up even though I'm swinging at the sky. Right now, I jump off a cliff, and I think, it doesn't matter, I can take damage because I have my Vampiric Super Sledge that I can hit the bacteria in the air in front of me and get all my health back. And yeah, you'll just see more and more of this going on. Between pretty much every single battle, I would run around and swing my sledge at the sky to get all my health back instead of using a stim pack. Here you can see that it's actually giving me the buff. It only lasts for a second or so, so you have to be quick to see it in the status menu. And it's just functioning exactly like it would if I hit an enemy, so either it was completely bugged, this particular super sledge, I never found another item with Vampiric on it, or they did not put in the detection that it actually needs to deal damage in order to give you this buff, which is the version that I'm going to believe because that's hilarious. As you can see, it coincidentally crashed the server. It has nothing to do with the super sledge because I was using it so often. But one thing I want to talk about here, which isn't a bug, is that this is an example of a bug being a good thing because this was my most prized possession in the whole entire game, and it didn't really break it that much. It felt like a real special find that I got this, and was the only time in the game where I felt like I discovered treasure, you know what I mean? So I think there's something there about, it reinforces that idea that putting stuff in the game that breaks the game isn't always a bad thing, and it's worth exploring there. But what about if you don't have a Vampiric Super Sledge? You will die. And this section is called Death Acrobatic because, yep. So these are times when I died, and when I hit respawn, it would fling me forward or up in the air. Sometimes it would be very gentle, sometimes it would be like that, where I am doing acrobatics, as the name suggests. This one is special because after you die, you just respawn anywhere nearby, or on another player, I believe. And you run back to the little doggy bag that you drop on the floor, and it's just all your scrap that you've been carrying around, because scrap is so important. And this one's special because that didn't spawn. There was no scrap bag that time because, screw you. That happened probably 1 in every 10 deaths, I think. You just did not get a scrap bag, and you just don't get any chance to reclaim your items. There's another example here of being flung up into the air after I die. That was one of the better world event quests, actually, that one that we were doing there. Here's another example. Sorry, it's funny. I'll try not to laugh. And here's some enemies doing it too. I hit him, I kill him, and he gets flung up into the air. I think the next one is Mandalore. Yeah, Mandalore takes a shot at this guy as I'm creeping forward to see all the Scorch together. And boom, headshot, and he goes way up in the air and then falls down. This mole goes into the wall. Good for him. Good acrobatics there. And this is not an acrobatic death, but it is the one time where I died, and when I went to respawn, it didn't give me anywhere to respawn, so I had to restart the whole entire game. That was a real good one there. I count that as a crash, actually. This one is when I died and I fell through the world, and you can see it all warp out of shape there. This happened a lot less than you might think. I can recall 3 times right now, and I'm only going to show one of them in this video. So good on them, but just because it didn't happen to me doesn't mean it didn't happen to others. And by others, I mean enemies. This section is named after a high school phenomenon and is called Stuck in Geometry. There's a wolf here stuck in the back of this excavator that I eventually kill, but I don't think I'm going to show that. He's just hanging out there. Oh, it's a dog, sorry, it's not a wolf. I think that's a good mistake, though. This is what Mandalore found. It's a Mr. Farmhand that's stuck in in a filing cabinet. No idea how he got there. Mandalore told me that he just found him like that, and he was keeping the cabinet warm with his little flame hover thing there. There's another one here that was stuck in this playground. This is a Mr. Prizebot that will sometimes spawn nearby and will approach you as a random event and will give you some sort of prize from a draw that must have been happening since before the war. So sometimes he must spawn inside geometry, I guess, like he did this time. And I could not put him out of his misery, so he was stuck there. This one is a little bit lighter than the other ones. He's stuck in the stairs and he won't come out. This is a Mole Man, which is one of the most mysterious enemies in the game. And I was very much looking forward to finding out their origins, but they were pretty boring. It's just some people that got stuck in a mine after the bombs dropped. So I snap him out of that and kill him. The next one is the start of ones that are stuck in the floor of the world. So this guy is completely buried there. That is not intentional, even though it looks hilarious. These bloatflies I'm not sure about. It feels like they should probably be like this. They should burrow themselves and ambush you, but as we'll see, these aren't the only enemies that do this, and it just doesn't feel right when you see them, especially when their wings start flapping before they're completely out of it. So this might not be a bug, it just might be a little off. Yeah, here's the other example of another bug buried in the ground, and that is not intentional. There's no way. We get to put this one out of its misery, though. F for the little bug. Up next is a category that I've called Blink and You'll Miss It, which is sort of a game that you can play for the rest of the video if you want, and these are glitches that you really have to pay attention to see it. So here, these are 2 frames where when you switch weapons, something shows up on the screen, and it's really hard to tell, and if it hadn't happened more than once, I probably would have noticed it here. And this may not be fair, but I do have to wonder how many glitches I didn't notice throughout my playthrough because they were blink and you'll miss it. And I don't think it's fair because if I didn't notice it, why should I hold it against the game? But there were many glitches I found while putting this video together that I had no idea about. So here's another one where the screen flashes dark as I'm jumping over this railing. Really weird, and it may seem kind of petty to do this, but like look at that on the screen right now. It looks like it's been photoshopped in. Just imagine like the slight psychological effect of seeing stuff like this and you don't really know that it's there. So here we'll slow this down and this ghoul appears, shoots across the bridge and then falls, and you might not really notice it, but I think subconsciously you will, and it'll kind of mess with you a little bit and just makes you uncomfortable. Here the water disappears for a second, and here Mandalore will appear in front of me for a second as I'm running across this bridge. He just warps. And yeah, I think it's important to point these out because they're so strange. Here Mandalore's name shows up in front of me. It just flashes. And there are other ones like this with enemies where you'll be walking along and suddenly they'll say, hey, there's an enemy in front of you. And it's hard to tell if these are glitches, that the enemies are there and just invisible and not interactable, or that it's shooting a line way, way, way far in the distance and it's picking up enemies that haven't even been drawn in yet, that might be through the terrain even. But like I said, there are invisible enemies, so it's hard to tell, and we'll be looking at a few of them next. I've called the section Invisible Entities though, not enemies, because, as we'll see right now, it's not always enemies, sometimes it's friends. So here, Mandalore is invisible. Even though he's logged out, it's still showing him there. This time he's still in the game. He's actually left and gone into a cave nearby, but for some reason he's still here on the game, and you can even see his microphone's icon lighting up as he's talking to me, but the game still thinks he's out there. This one was particularly upsetting because you can see a honeybeast down here. This was the first honeybeast I ever saw in the game, and after I killed it, thinking like, what the hell is that? That looks cool. We went down and its corpse had vanished, but only for me. Mandalore could still see it. He's looking at it right now, and I couldn't loot it and I couldn't take a better look, and I didn't see this enemy again for about 60 hours. This time it was a Snallygaster, which is a kind of a mutant that, like a mutant kind of, oh god, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a big snake wolf thing, and I'm in the forest investigating to see if it's in the distance because we just killed some Snallygasters in this area and it's showing up when I look in that direction, but we soon discovered that it's actually in the road right here. And this one was very strange because Mandalore couldn't see it, and I could see its name and health bar. We couldn't do damage to it, but it got even stranger when we got close to it, as we'll see in just a second, that I couldn't occupy the same space as it, and it felt like it was moving a little bit, so maybe it was stuck somehow. So here I will run at it, and it's stopping me from moving, whereas Mandalore could move straight through with no problems. I could even jump up on it, and I would hover in the air a little bit. So yeah, I have no idea how many of these are spread across the map, which again, isn't that fair, but oh well. Here's one that we both encountered, which is its own video on the second channel. This is the invisible bear. So this is how it's meant to work. There's supposed to be a bear up here that you just shoot at, and there it is. And this is the experience that we had when we appeared here, which is that an invisible bear was attacking both of us and killed us. Then some super mutants showed up and sort of saved the day, but then the invisible bear killed them all, and I highly recommend you go on the second channel and watch the whole thing in full if you want to know the whole story. It was probably the funniest thing that happened to us during the playthrough. This is the last one we'll show, which is an invisible swarm of bees. And this one I could interact with, so it shows that it's inconsistent. Sometimes you can't shoot them, sometimes you can't see them, sometimes you can see them, you can't interact with them, and there you go. I kill it, and it spawns one dead bee to signify the whole swarm, and then vanishes completely. Sometimes enemies will vanish after you've seen them, sometimes during combat, sometimes on the horizon. So here in this battle, this ghoul just snaps out of existence in the middle of the fight. Here there's a dead rad stag on the road that vanishes in front of me. Sometimes corpses become piles of blood and guts, and that's not what happened here. This corpse is just completely gone and I couldn't loot it. In here I go into this barracks and this guy vanishes as soon as I see him, which is kind of creepy. Same thing happens here in this factory here. This one is after a fight with a Scorchbeast queen. There's a mole that's floating in the sky in the distance, and as I get close to it trying to kill it, it snaps out of existence and is gone forever. This one's a little hard to see. There are some ghouls that are on the road, and I'm going to kill them, and then they blink out of existence, and when I try to see them in the scope, they're just gone. Again, not a big deal. A lot of the problems we're going to look at aren't really that big, but when you add them all together, like this cockroach just falling, and you think, oh, that's it, but no, then the corpse vanishes, it really adds up over time to how poorly the game feels and how it's put together, and you can't even really trust anything. Going into a room or just fighting something, it all adds up to this really, really bad experience, or really, really funny experience, as we'll see with this next one. So these are enemies dying out of nowhere. They're not vanishing, they're just dying. So the first one is when I go into this building, and again, blink and you'll miss it maybe, this Scorched falls from the ceiling and just dies. So what's funny about this is that there's no hole up the top, so this guy fell through the terrain, I'm guessing. He just fell through the floor and died. There's another one here at this dam, which I saw a couple of glitches here. He just falls, and we'll see that again, slow motion. He just spawns, and then he falls, and then he dies. There's another one here with a bloatfly that ended up being at the end of the video, the first Fallout 76 video. So what I think happens is that when you arrive in an area that no one's been in a while, it does a check to see where all the enemies should be, and if that's broken or the server thinks that the enemy shouldn't be there yet, it tries to correct it. And if it can't correct it by moving the enemy in time, it just kills them instead of despawning it. I don't know why. That kind of throws a wrench in my theory. Why wouldn't they just despawn it? But then again, maybe the despawn is glitched and it's supposed to despawn as well as dying, and it doesn't work properly. So I don't know. This one here is a ghoul that just falls down dead as I'm approaching. There was also a house that I went to once and everything in it died all of a sudden, but I couldn't find that on the footage. Here a rad stag just falls over out of nowhere and dies, and I checked the map and there was no one nearby that could have shot it. Those guys on the map are too far away. Next is this room in the Enclave bunker. These robots would just keel over and die randomly while I was in there. Unfortunately, I was always busy in there and I couldn't get footage of it happening live, but I was the only one in the bunker, and yet they were just keeling over and dying. Yeah, it's very, very strange that you're just there and suddenly you hear something hit the ground, you turn around and a robot is just dropped dead. This one sticks out in my memory because it's a Mirelurk queen and they're just so large. So I'm going here to kill it and it just automatically dies as soon as I'm in range. So I run over to see if I can loot it because usually they have some good things on them. And as I'm getting there, the corpse then despawns. Pretty bad. That happened a couple times actually. Here this Mothman jumps away from me. There's a flash on the screen. I have no idea what that is. And then it just dies. There's now a pile of ash on the ground instead of this Mothman. Yeah, so he just jumped up and died in the middle of his transition, I guess. The last one we'll see here are friendly NPCs that are taking damage but won't die because they might be associated with a quest for some reason. So they will go all the way down to 0 HP, they might go into an inactive state, and then they'll recover back up again, and then they'll start the cycle again and again. There were some important quest givers that this happened to that we'll see later, and that one's really strange. I don't understand that. I really have trouble figuring that one out. Does the server think that they should be in different places, so it's causing them to take damage? I don't know why that would be, but it's like there's a damage aura in the place that is just continually going on them. Maybe it's that someone shot at them and the damage is finally registering a long time later. I have no idea. It's very weird. The next set are enemies that are popping in out of nowhere. Sometimes this is lag, especially when you transition from one place to another or just load into the game, but it can be really ridiculous. This one's pretty bad. It starts out okay, and then, yep, the whole camp appears out of nowhere. This is when I come out of the Whitespring hotel, and all these robots appear after it shoots me back to the beginning after I try to walk away. Yeah, some of this is acceptable, but there must be a better way of doing this. The other games they've made have not been this bad. Here, a horde of super mutants just appear out of nowhere, and I go fight them. Same thing here with a bunch of Scorch. They just appear out of nowhere on the road. And I have to, again, wonder if this is this place becoming active when a player arrives. This one I don't think is lag. I think this is, again, the server thinking, oh crap, there has to be things here. This one makes the place look haunted. The door opens by itself there, and then the merchant zones in. This one is a guy appearing on the road right in front of me. This happened a fair amount. We'll see that a couple more times here. Yep, here's another one. Always fun to just run into a guy that pops out of nowhere. I think there are a couple more. This is a one with an elevator in the Brotherhood of Steel base. Elevators don't actually move, they're just teleports to another elevator that looks the exact same way. But it still doesn't make sense because these enemies are in with me when I get to the top of the elevator ride, and they weren't in it when I first got in it. So yeah, that's pretty bad, and I don't know why they allowed enemies to spawn in that area at all. It doesn't really make sense. This is one of the new ones that I saw when I was recording that bit at the end of the first video. This guy appears right in front of me on the bridge. This bridge is always really buggy. Here a guy appears, yep, as we turn this corner. Just a regular old ghoul who's clipping through his hat. And last but not least, we have some enemies that are floating in the sky above this factory. These robots that shoot down when they're there. And then a Grafton troll monster appears to the right out of nowhere right here. And that is a good place to move over to a big problem in combat, which is a lack of response, both from enemies noticing you, responding to damage, and just a general lack of responsiveness. Sometimes they just go idle in the middle of a fight. And the first one we'll be looking at is another Grafton troll monster in the exact same area, actually. Like I said, this is going to be a mix of enemies not responding whatsoever when you first meet them, and then, like this Grafton troll monster, it will react to you, fight you, and then in the middle of that fight, it will just stand there and eat your bullets for a little while. Sometimes enemies will get into this state and stay like that until they die. Other times they'll snap out of it. And I wonder if this is sort of half of what we saw earlier with that ghoul in the nuke zone, that it's still registering damage for some reason this time, but it's just going in an inactive state.
Is he stuck? He's stuck!
This next one is unique among unique bugs because this happened a lot with enemies going into this state. They would go rigid after I killed them. So instead of becoming a corpse, they would go bolt upright and they wouldn't fall over. This guy is alive and I can still do damage to him, and I even get XP when I kill him. But then I can't loot him and he doesn't react at all. So I don't know if this is a hit detection ghost maybe? I have no idea. That I can still do damage to him is very strange. He's got a nice hat, though. This ghoul has almost the same hat, but it makes me think that there are problems on individual enemy basis because his other friend ghoul over here, who doesn't have a hat, isn't bugged, and yet this guy just will not react to anything I do until I hit him. Sorry to repeat myself, but I have no idea what's going on there. These are vertibots that are, as the name suggests, they're not piloted. I don't know what the lore is behind these guys, but they will respond to you and they will attack you, but they bug out a lot. They often stop shooting back at you even though you're in the middle of a fight. They do this sort of thing. This is another fight halfway across the map where they are now ignoring me, but also kind of jerking around as they're trying to do evasive maneuvers away from my shots. Yeah, this makes me wonder exactly how much the enemies in the game were tested. There are specific enemies that have the same problems over and over and over again. Scorchbeast is another one where there are issues with them flying. Here they just decide, both of them, that they're done fighting and they leave. And then they come back about a minute later out of nowhere and they start attacking me again. So they just leave unleashed back. This one is like the ghoul before. It just won't respond to me. And here are 2 more ghouls that just do not care. They're locked into the same kind of idle state, actually. They just do not care that I'm here whatsoever, despite spawning right in front of me during this quest. Here's another one, another Scorch in the same tunnel. This tunnel had a lot of bugs in it, actually. And here's a super mutant that has a delayed reaction. So I'm standing right next to him. And then suddenly he's like, oh, you, that would never happen in Fallout 4. Here's an example of enemies just not caring that I'm close to them. And this is one of the best, some of the best proof that I have that they have dramatically turned down how far enemies can see and how far they can hear. So enemies in Fallout 76 compared to Fallout 4 have been blindfolded and have earplugs in, I guess. This happened quite a bit, and even when you just enter areas, in Fallout 4, you would be shot at right away and enemies would hear you and they would go into detect states. Whereas here, I can be right in front of them and they can clearly see me and they just don't care. I didn't have any stealth perks or anything here too, and I'm in power armor. So the reason I'm comparing it to Fallout 4 a lot is because it's the same engine, it's basically the same game. So I think they had to dramatically turn it down for it to work in Fallout 76. And here's another one where this Scorched is actively searching for me, and I'm moving around behind her, and she still can't get it together to see where I am. This one is odd because the Scorch seems to be aware that I'm there, but won't react. So I don't know what's happened here. There's another one like this that we'll see a little later that is a lot more unusual. This ghoul is stuck on the floor, but this is during a nuke event and there are many players nearby, and usually that's okay. This happened a couple times in the Whitesprings because it's just a really great area to farm XP and legendary items because these ghouls spawn probably more than they're supposed to. But usually it was okay, but here is pretty bad. Here there are some mole rats that again seem to be aware that I'm there, but they won't react. The next one is a Mirelurk. This happened in the middle of a fight. This happened quite often with Mirelurk queens. They will get stuck on a cliff somewhere, or they will just decide to stop and just not do anything and send their little minions instead, but it doesn't feel like it's intentional. It feels like this enemy is bugged out here. The sneak attacks are kind of weird too, considering that she's looking right at me, but that can happen in the other games too. So here is a Mr. Gutsy, a Colonel Gutsy, who knows that it's in a battle and just will not shoot back at me for whatever reason. It's like that brain bot that we saw earlier, just letting me just go to town here, will not react whatsoever until it dies, and then it gets stuck in a door, which is just beautiful. Here we have a legendary super mutant brute that doesn't respond in the same way. It's even trying to get away, and it just won't fire back at me. And here we have a Scorchbeast that will drop down from the sky and will just sit there and let me attack it. And we're going to be seeing a much better example of this up next, but yep, here I go, just hitting it in the head over and over and over again. It's just going to stand there and let me do it all the way to death. This happened fairly often with the Scorchbeasts, but what it happened way more with was the Scorchbeast Queen. Now, this is the final boss in the game. This is what the whole story is leading up to. This is the center of the hive mind that controls all the Scorchbeasts and all the scorched humans and animals that you've seen in the game. She functions like a much larger version of the Scorchbeast that we just saw. She will fly in the air, she will assault you, and then she'll land for a little bit, and she will also go into these inactive states and just let you hit her. Now, what you have to understand is that this is a 20-minute fight. That's how long it takes to kill her. 20 minutes. And just going through all the footage, and we'll skip ahead through a few of them, she was bugged like this for more than half of those 20 minutes. Even here, she does a reaction, and then she's right back into the idle thing where we're just hitting her. It's really, really disappointing, and it's a bad way to end the game because it's already a limited fight as it is. You know, it's a very, very, very disappointing conclusion to launching a nuke, which is admittedly quite exciting despite the problems that the game has, and yet even this limited version of the fight and this severely disappointing finale they still couldn't get that right, and the boss just will sit there and allow you to hit her. And what's really tragic about this is that you're happy when it happens, because now you don't have to wait for her to circle around so much. You can just get it over with as quickly as possible and just treat her like the really poor loot pinata that she is. It's very disappointing, the items you get from her too. Now, maybe we should have ended with that one, but this one is too weird for me not to include. So this is the wise Mothman that appears at the end of a world event quest, where you have to run around and you have to kill fireflies to collect their liquid to power a lighthouse. It's actually one of the more interesting world event quests, which is kind of funny to say that because it probably sounds pretty underwhelming. So here I'm attacking this wise Mothman because that's just the kind of player that I am. I wanted to fight them and see what would happen. It just appears after you completed the quest. You go to the top of the lighthouse, you come downstairs, and then it's just standing there waiting for you. It gives you a temporary increase to your XP gained. It only lasts for an hour. I think it's 5%. So I'm hitting it, and I wouldn't have hit it so much if it hadn't gone red, and, it seems like it wants to fight me. Whenever the health bar changes from yellow to red, it means that the game is reacting in some way. And then I keep attacking it, and then I realize that I can clip through it. And now I am the wise Mothman. Reminds me of that scene from Starship Troopers with the big brain bug. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this other than I just have to put it in because it just got weirder as time went on. But yeah, I am the Mothman. They're kind of creepy, aren't they? I only saw this enemy a couple times throughout the game. It's a shame because they feel like they had a lot of work put into them. They jump around and they're fairly fun. Now that we're approaching an hour of this, we're going to take a brief break, and I'm going to let the clips of the game crashing and the server disconnecting play while I recite a poem that I wrote on Twitter around Christmas time. The game crashed and disconnected quite often, but my recording software would also go down with it sometimes, so I don't have a lot of those examples to show, and even if I could, it would just show the screen going black, and that wouldn't really communicate a crash all that effectively. So I'm just going to let the disconnects go, and I'm going to read this poem. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through Bethesda, every developer was working, except for the testers. The coders were typing their hands to the bone, in hopes that Todd Howard would soon let them go home, while the testers were nestled all snug in their beds, with visions of disconnected seared in their heads. Todd himself was busy flipping through internet polls. It'll all be forgotten, he thought, with the next Elder Scrolls. When out on the lawn there arose such a shout, "The devs," Todd cried, "someone might let them out." Away to the window he flew like a flash. Meanwhile, half of Fallout 76's servers just crashed. Outside were some reindeer, a man, and a sleigh. Todd opened the door and he started to say, "Around here we greet each other with our Skyrim receipt," but Santa Claus approached without a peep. In front of Todd he held up his bag and then let it drop. "Oh," said Todd, "you want 500 atoms for the online shop?" More rapid than mole rats did the developers crowd at the door. What had Santa brought them? What was in store? "Now, Todd, now, Howard," Santa whistled and shouted. "I've brought you a present," but Todd just pouted. "It's for you all," Santa said. "I made sure that I brought it. It'd be cool if I didn't think you'd get someone to mod it." The devs whispered now as their thoughts began to fly. What was the gift? What had Santa brought them, and why? "It's a new engine," Santa roared, "and there's no need to pay us. The elves and I, we just want you to make another New Vegas." "Saying that name here is banned," the devs let out a gasp. But Santa threw his head back and just laughed. "Ho ho, I'm joking, I know, the engine is for you, for Valenwood or elsewhere or whatever you do. Please, for all of us, retire your old engine and all of its quirks." "No," Todd finally spoke. "I like our engine. It just works." "It works?" Santa shook his head. "I've played 76. It has more bugs than there are names on my list." The devs were already celebrating. Oh, they were merry. They cheered and shouted while Todd was still wary. A new engine meant Christmas and Starfield were saved. Unlocked FPS, an FOV slider, what the players all craved. As Santa departed, the devs pulled in his sack. Their new engine was inside, on drives all in a stack. What would they do first? What would they fix? Could there even be time to save Elder Scrolls 6? Then Todd cleared his throat, all eyes were on him. "The first thing you'll do is port over Skyrim." He did a dance and then clapped his hands twice. "We'll release it again, and charge full price." Then Santa's bag came alive and leapt onto Howard. The devs did nothing but watch as Todd was devoured. The bag took him to a place where he was lost without power. He felt disconnected, like he had played Fallout 76 for over an hour. Yet in that same darkness, he heard a rumble and a voice. Todd strained to hear as best he could, as if he had a choice. Then the darkness faded. Todd could see there was a horse. The voice was so clear now. Where was he? Oh, of course.
Hey, you're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border, right?
Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Maybe I should have done it in Yusuke's voice. Moving on from that, we are going on to quests that were broken while I was playing the game. But it's also related to what we just saw because this first example is when the game crashed, and when I went back in, I had lost progress for about, I think, 30 minutes. What's weird is that I kept all my items, but the quest reset, and I had to go back to where I first got this first main quest chain with the Overseer's quest log and the first camp in the game. It was a bit frustrating and also confusing this early on. It also happened again, I think 15 hours later, where the game crashed and I lost all of my quests, as you can see here. There are very few on the screen, and I had to try to get them back, but I think at the end of the game just crashed again and I got them back again. Here we have a quest that wouldn't update. I had finished the most recent part of the chain, and Rose, who is meant to call me and tell me what to do next, did that, but the next quest didn't show up, and since there are no breadcrumbs, you have to just follow quest markers, I couldn't complete this quest. So that was the end of that. I had to just go and see her to see if I could get to work, and that didn't fix it. I had to wait until the game crashed, or I logged out, but you know, they're one and the same really with this game. And then when I went back in, she called me again, and then that fixed it, and I was able to continue this quest. Here's that tea time thing again. Oh, we're double dipping. I should take this out. Now we'll leave it in. The next one is sort of related to tea time, though. So I'm across the map when I get this quest to defend the Beckley mine exhibit. This is a workshop that I claimed. I'm not going back there for that, so I say screw it. So I get the quest, then it fails. So they took over the workshop. It's been overrun, so now I have to retake it. So that's fairly normal. If I didn't go and save it, it's going to be taken over. But then I complete it. So without having to leave, the quest started, failed, and then succeeded. And I got a bunch of rewards here for no work. So yeah, go me. Fun. No one's there either, so it's not like someone else did it for me. Here is a keypad quest in a mine that won't activate. I have the code, I know what it is. This is the first keypad I saw in the game, and I thought maybe I just needed to know the code and it would automatically open, but no, I had to leave and then go back in, and then it would work and I could put the keypad in, and the code was 11037. Here we have a Rose the Raider quest where I needed to put a explosive on a piece of meat to attract a predator to come and eat it, and then I did this, and no predator came to eat the meat, and it still succeeded. She calls and is like, yeah, good job. You really showed that animal. Yeah, so it just failed completely, which is very strange. You could also move the meat afterwards. It's supposed to stink to attract animals, and the stink will stay where it is, where it spawns. So I'm pretty sure this is meant to blow up, and there's supposed to be an animal that spawns, but hey, yeah, par for the course here. Here we have a quest for the Mistress of Mysteries questline, which I'm not really going to speak about much because it's a waste of time. But you have to put a item on a sword and go use it and attack enemies, and it's called a swing analyzer. So you're supposed to kill an enemy, and you'll see that I just killed it, and this is how long it takes to update afterwards that I've done it. Checkpointed, and now it's only just updating now. And it was the same for all 6 different types of enemies that I killed with this weapon. It's like there's lag for quests. Here's an example of a NPC bot that is going inactive because it's taking damage for some reason. So this is a Master Sergeant Gutsy in Fort McClintock, I think. And I have to talk to this guy to do a quest, and I can't because he keeps getting damaged. And I will try to talk to him, and it'll try to start the conversation, or I shouldn't say conversation, but it'll try and start his dialogue, and then he'll just drop down dead again, and he just cycled through this over and over. So I have no idea what is going on here. I have no clue what could cause this. I can't even speculate. I have no clue. What would cause NPCs that you can't even damage when you hit them? Even when he's at full life, if you attack him, you can't do anything to him. It just ignores it completely. He doesn't even go red, and yet he can still take damage. Like, they should be flagged as immune, and maybe they are, and there's something that's breaking through it. So I talked to him, and I think that's fixed, and I think he goes down again after this. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe this is the time it succeeds. Oh, I leave without even finding out. I'm bored. interesting approach past me. So this guy's doing the same thing. This is it working. You're supposed to use a holotape you found in order to authenticate yourself. And I think this time it works. I play it and it recognizes the guy's voice. Yeah, audio identification confirmed. But this is what it looked like before. He's at full health, and then all of a sudden he just dies. He doesn't even take damage slowly. He just goes all the way down to 0. And he just keeps taking hits. He even looks like he's reacting to something hitting him. Maybe 2 servers are merged. Maybe there's some interdimensional shenanigans going on here. But yeah, using the audio log here won't work at all. It won't register. And this is probably an example of Bethesda's bug. I have no idea if you even have to do this, or if I could just go into the quest and if I could just go into the mine and do the quest. But it felt like I had to do this before I went in, so I didn't bother. Here we have a world event quest that will not start. It's right here. It's called Census Violence. You can fast travel and join it, but I'm already here, and yeah, it won't work. It just will not start. This happened a fair amount. I think there were quite a few quests in the game that are bugged out like this, or they won't even start. It's what I mentioned in the video before, that it's hard to tell if there's supposed to be something working here, so it might be even more bugs than we realize. This is one of the more interesting world event quests that I thought, because it's in an interesting location. So you're supposed to kill this thing, the Strangler Heart. Now, you may have missed it here, but that guy just did a hit so hard that it killed it from 100% all the way down to 0. And I think that's bugged out the quest and we can't complete it now, because he hit it so hard that like the server can't even react to this thing being dead already, so we can't complete this quest. And in the end, I just had to leave, and I never got to see what this quest was, which is a shame because it looks really interesting with this plane overhead, completely claimed by the Strangler Vines. This one is another world event quest that wouldn't start. So I think it's a horde of Yaogwai that Mandalore and I wanted to fight. Yep, and there were none there, and of course we made a lot of jokes that, of course they're just all invisible bears. This is a quest for the Enclave that would spawn a bunch of super mutants that weren't hostile to me. They were friendly until I went over and hit them. That was odd. All these friendly super mutants that are attacking the robots that I'm trying to save for the Enclave. Yeah, go figure that one out. This is one of the worst bugs in the game because it's for a main quest and you need to do this in order to get to the end of the narrative. This is one of the more extreme, or maybe even the most extreme glitch that I found in the game involving quests. So in order to get into this area, you have to get through this little building to get into the courtyard. You have to use a holotape. I think it's the master holotape. And it's given to you when you follow the quest line of a woman in a bunker nearby from the Free States to override all the security in this area so you can get in and you can finish the quest that she started. This won't work. It won't even load. It won't even begin to try to work. And the reason why that I didn't figure out until later is that if you have too many holotapes in your inventory, you can't use new ones that you pick up because it just bugged it out. So instead of figuring this out right away, I actually jumped up onto the terminal, went on the roof, and got into the courtyard. And I just skipped this and I thought, okay, I've circumvented it, I fixed it. But then you get into here and there's another computer terminal that needs this same master holotape that we'll see right now. Of course, there was no bypassing this time. I couldn't climb on this computer to get the data that I needed from the computer terminal. So I was shut out of luck, and I thought, oh, I wasn't going to be able to finish the quest. And a little part of me was happy. It's like, oh, now I can justify that I didn't finish the quest for the video. But I Googled it, and I found out that this is a fairly common problem, and you need to drop all of the rest of your holotapes in your inventory that you have, except for the ones that are just for quests that you can't drop. And for whatever reason, this makes it work. So that's what I did. I dropped every single holotape that I could onto the floor, and you can see me doing it now. It was very tedious. And there's the master holotape that I need to put into the computer. And once I was done with this, you know, any minute now, when we're done, can't drop keys. They're the Overseer's logs that you can't drop either. I think I had maybe 15 or so holotapes in my inventory at the end of this. Also, every other terminal that had this problem, every other terminal after this also needed this requirement for it to work. But thankfully, this was one of the final holotapes that I needed for the quest. This was one of the last ones I did when I was playing. So now it works, and I can go to the computer terminal, and I can use the master holotape, and now it functions. It's a miracle. So there we go. Here's why it gets worse. I stupidly picked up all my holotapes because I like to collect all my stuff, and I was curious, would this solution also fix it for the door that we saw the first time? So I went back there, and I did the same thing here. And I was like, oh, okay, so let's get into it the normal way. Now, when I did this, strangely, the voice of the woman, like kind of like the ghost of Abby, that's set up all these contingency plans, responded with, hey, you got into the area, but I can see that you already have the data from the computer, so you found out a way to get in there before getting this one open. So that's kind of strange. Congratulations on doing it in an unconventional way. So it's like she had planned for someone to be able to get into the second room before the first room. But there's an even bigger bug here that after this recording played on my Pip-Boy, by the way, it didn't play on the computer terminal, it played on the Pip-Boy, the other computer across the courtyard played its congratulatory message again. So somehow the first computer triggered the second one again, and I had a repeat audio log of her congratulating me twice, which is just baffling to me. I don't know what the hell happened here or why it matters that you might have too many holotapes in your inventory. It's very, very, very strange. But admittedly, I should probably be storing them in the stash space in the camp, but they don't weigh anything, so I was just lugging them around with me as I collected them. Up last are the quests involving the Messenger, which is a world event that you can stumble upon where there is a Mr. Messenger robot that needs you to fix him because he's broken, and then you follow him to a house nearby, or not nearby, it could be quite far actually, and you just follow him there, and then he delivers his message to the house. It's supposed to be something that was set up before the bombs dropped, and he's only now completing it. You help him do that, and you follow him along the way, and then he gives you a reward. Now, apart from some pathfinding bugs that you're seeing here, this wouldn't really be worth bringing up in this video, even though they are quite hilarious, especially this one that's about to happen here with this giant rock that he just kind of tries to hump. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is that most of the times that we found this Mr. Messenger were when the server was being really bad, and there were a lot of server problems. There was one time when we found a Mr. Messenger when the servers were performing well, and this is during that time I spoke about in the last video where Mandalore and I had the whole server to ourselves. We were the only ones on the server. It was like 76 co-op instead of the MMO kind of monster that it had become. And this was the only time during, I think, 4 Mr. Messenger quests that enemies spawned to attack the Mr. Messenger on the way. And that got cogs turning in our heads about, hey, maybe that's how they are all supposed to be, and that the poor state of the servers when there are too many people on it also affect quests as well as lag. That I really can't exaggerate this enough, that in the other 3 times that we walked the Mr. Messenger around, nothing spawned to get in our way. It was just follow him silently as no monsters, no super mutants, no animals tried to attack him. Just follow him there and then get your items, and that was it. Yet this time we had mole rats appear at us, ghouls, super mutants. They all wanted this Mr. Messenger secrets. My conclusion, admittedly I don't have a lot of stuff to go on here, is that this is how all of them are meant to function, and it's, not a bad quest, not a great quest, but not a bad quest, and the server issues can cause quests to completely glitch out and be lesser versions of what they're meant to be, on top of them just being laggy as all hell and not really all that fun, which is pretty heartbreaking, but also makes me wonder, what else are we missing? How many other quests aren't functioning properly? So I just want to repeat my plea again. Make an offline version of this game, please. I think it could be fun, even if it's an offline version where you just have co-op with maybe a limit of 4 people. I think that would be way more fun and interesting than what you have here. Moving on from that, we're going to be looking at pure server issues, or at least what I think are pure server issues. And this is going to be a little indulgent as I check my mail here. This is not on repeat, it's not looping. This is going to be a clip that plays from start to finish, and there are no jump cuts or anything. It's just me waiting for the server to update this container with whatever is supposed to be inside. And this section is going to be maybe beating a dead horse, but that's the whole video, right? Everyone knows that the game was buggy, but I think it's important to have a video stand as proof of just how bad this game was around launch. And I wish I had done this for Fallout 4. Especially now, because I could have referenced back at it and compared the two. That was my plan when I was making that first Fallout 4 video back in 2015, but I chickened out, and I just wanted the video out as soon as possible back then, and that's why it's a bit flawed now. But yeah, I wish I had done it. So eventually, I give up, I think, or it just doesn't show, and we're going to be seeing a bunch of these issues here with server stuff, and we're going to speculate a little bit as this section goes on. So I think this jumps away to the next clip. It just never resolves. And we're going to see the same thing here now with enemies. So I killed that enemy. If you don't damage an enemy, you don't get to loot it. So even if you're in a group, there's no split loot unless you both deal damage. So as you can see, I dealt damage to this ghoul, and it just won't let me loot it. It's just updating forever and ever, trying to find loot to attach to this ghoul. And we'll talk about loot in a little bit when it comes to enemies having the wrong weapons, and maybe it's not a clear-cut issue. So yeah, I give up and I leave, and now the same thing is going to be in this trash can, and we'll let this play for less than the other ones, because I think I've made the point now. This happened very often around the starting area around Vault 76, and like I said, we'll talk about that in just a second. So here we have a combination of it not updating with loot and also the server going not responding. And here we have lag on looting items, so I am pressing E and then looking away after I press E, and this is how long it takes for the item to get picked up. So whenever you see the cursor move away from the object, that's when I pressed E, and it takes that long in order for it to finally go into my inventory. I think the next one is when I shoot at a ghoul's head. Oh no, there's another toxic barrel. Again, I've used the item, I've moved away, and this is how long it takes for the server to be like, oh, okay, we registered that now. It's very bad. All right, here's the ghoul shooting in the head. So I missed the first 2 shots, even though I'm aiming right at it. Don't know how that happens. And the third shot lands, and yeah, there's like a good second there before the server realizes what's happened, and it blows that ghoul's head off. Here we have a beneficial lag bug. I'm sprinting right now, and sprinting costs action points. And if you look at the bottom right, it's not using any action points. And this happened very often, once again, around the main area. So now it's using action points. So this is beneficial lag, where the server isn't being met with to tell it that I'm using action points, I'm guessing. So because of lag, I get to sprint forever. I used that quite often early on, but that bug became rarer as time went on. Next, we have a server interruption while I'm trying to put down my camp. Putting on your camp is not as simple as it should be. Sometimes it won't let you put it down even though it says it's green and you can put it down, so you have to try multiple times before it finally registers. So here the server's not responding, and then my camp goes down while the server's not responding, and it's behind me, one of the first places I put it, and I run over to use it, and then it gets moved again, and costs caps again to be moved, and then, like a jump scare, I'm afraid to turn around, and then I see it right there. Here we have some lagged out enemies. These are the bloat flies, and they kind of look like they're matched in the same sort of glitch here in the same place. So they're not moving, and again, I can't loot this Mirelurk next to it. Yeah, they're stuttering around a little bit, and we'll see another section later that is probably the same kind of lag, but I decided to make it its own section instead, which is warping enemies. But yeah, this is pretty bad. So what's happening, and what I think is happening here, is this is going to sound contradictory, but the issue is, wow, that looks weird. The issue is that when a nuke goes off, many players will gather around one zone on the map. And sometimes that can be very laggy. It depends on the location that it is. Whenever there was a nuke in the Whitesprings, like we're seeing right now, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. But when there was a nuke out in the middle of the wilderness, where there wasn't that much density in buildings and the like, it was pretty stable if you were in that nuke area. The game was never stable apart from maybe that hour or two when we had the server to ourselves. But even then, that was more stable. It wasn't perfect. So what I think is happening is that if players gather in one area where the nuke is, in a remote location or remote-ish location, the server can handle it because there's not much going on there, and it can divert all of the resources that it has to accommodating a bunch of players being in this one location, dealing with players battling all those enemies that spawn in that one location as they're fighting for loot and hopefully in a party and sharing all the XP that they get. There's a lot of things that are going on during those nuke events. But if that same amount of players are in a location that is, say, 4 to 5 times wider, like the area around Vault 76, and they are inhabiting many locations instead of one. So let's say there are 1 or 2 players in 8 different locations in one region of the map. That's going to be a lot harder and put a lot more strain on the servers than it is when that same amount of players is in the nuke zone out in the wilderness. So then you get a lot of these issues show up where the server can't handle it and the server is breaking. Just in the same way that if there are a lot of players in a nuke zone and you are not in that nuke zone, if you're not participating for whatever reason, because you just don't want to, you can't get there in time, then the server tends to lag really hard on all the areas outside of that. At least that was my experience, which is limited. That's the problem with what we're looking at right here, is that it is quite limited. But these issues where it kept showing these server not responding messages were when there was a nuke on the map and we weren't there, or I wasn't there if I was playing solo. And the rest of the server not responding messages usually happened when I was in the middle of the map around Vault 76, and at the same time, there were many players in those areas around me. If there were the same amount of players in those areas around me and I was on the edges of the map, the game ran not that bad. Not great, but not that bad. It was rare that I got these kind of messages. It still happened, of course, but it was a lot less common. That's my oddball theory, I guess. I don't know. Like I said earlier, I'm just speculating. I have no real idea how this works. And even if someone is really familiar with servers and MMOs, the way that Bethesda put it together, I think the only way you can know for sure is if you worked on the game, or you were involved in some way, or you spent days pulling it apart somehow, if that's even something that's possible with the version that launched. So it's always going to be speculation. But yeah, that's my theory, at least for what's causing these issues. Here we have a fog crawler that is kind of humping the floor as it moves around because it's completely lagged out. Looks pretty funny. And then we have some more of these ghouls that are just warping around with players in this area. Like I said, the Whitesprings doesn't handle being nuked all that well. There's probably just too many NPCs around here. There's too many of those robots that are friendly but maybe not friendly that can get aggroed on. And there's just too many ghouls that spawn around here, but it's a great place to get XP and loot. So yeah, they're just going to be warping all over the place here. It's very frustrating. There were many times where I shot other players accidentally here and got shot myself. But I think everyone understood that there wasn't going to be any PvP. It never turned into anything. So here we have a Scorchbeast that is stuttering in the air. We're going to be seeing a little bit more of this with some more vertibots. Again, minor bug, but it all adds up, right? It's pretty bad when taken as a whole. So here is the a different part of what we've seen already with these vertibots over this pond, and there's some floating debris there, and they're going to clip through each other and just go all over the place, and they're just completely glitched out. And here we have the second time and last time that I ever saw the rad toads, which are a really interesting enemy because they leave mines behind. They like let out spores or globes. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like tadpoles or something. I have no idea. I don't know toads very well. And it was very disappointing to see them glitched out like this the second last time I ever saw them. They're a cool enemy. And here we see some more server not responding. It seems petty to complain about this, but it was really annoying to be doing stuff and be in the middle of playing the game and then suddenly you get this shit happening. Just every single time I was like, I'm not getting any benefit from being online. I'm not enjoying the multiplayer at all. It's just, you're just making me play an inferior version of your game just for money, as far as I'm concerned, just because you want to justify the online shop. You know, my time is being wasted because of this insistence to make it always online. I do have to wonder if that's anything to do with pirating games too. So here we have a part around a electrical tower, which I thought was not a bad location, and it's just completely lagged out again. This was when a nuke was going on, and we'll see it happening over and over again. I think we were stuck here for about 10 to 15 minutes without the server going down, and then it finally settled and we built a camp, and then the server went down after that. It's like it just makes no sense. It was like it resolved and it's like, oh okay, it's finally stable, and then just out of nowhere with no more server not responding, the server just went down. And we'll see something that I can nitpick here in just a second, which is a electrical spark that is hovering in the air below an exposed cable, which I didn't plan on pointing out in the video, but we have time here. There it is. It's just floating below it. Yeah, that's a nitpick though. It doesn't really matter. It's I just thought it was funny. You can probably find so many glitches in these clips that I don't even talk about. You know, a lot more of that blink that you miss at stuff. There's some Z fighting going on in a lot of clips too. There you go. Mandalore's just warping around because and the jugs are flying everywhere. It's like he's leaving behind a trail of wind as he snaps through the air. We'll see that with a door later. It's one of my favorite bugs. Here we have the first time that we met up in the game, and he is just warping all over the place. And I think he crashed too. The first time we met up in the game, He just disappeared for a second. And now we're going to try and build something like the idiots that we are. And we just keep moving all over the place, and even the menu is slow to respond. And we finally get it done, and then server not responding, server not responding. After saying all that, the last one we're going to see here is a way to bridge to the next section, which is, if you look carefully in the background, you will see that robot stand there, vanish, and then walk out of the thing that created it again, which is pretty funny. And you'd think that wouldn't be something that you see a lot during your time with the game, but then I went to Watoga, or Watoga, I think it's Watoga. This is a city in the southeast part of the map, which is one of the more interesting locations, and it was supposed to be an automated city. And they have these robot dispenser unit launchpad things that are all over the place that I assume are connected to like an underground factory. And all of these were glitched out, all of them, every single one of them in this city. No matter what, they wouldn't open, and the robot would just appear and just come right out of it like that, clip right through the cylinder. And the only reason why I'm showing this so many times is because I just think it's ridiculous that every single one of them broke. And it makes me wonder how things are put together that all of them can break like this. One or two would be understandable or more understandable, but all of them means there is a central glitch that's going on there. And maybe it's not even linked to this area. Maybe it's something that affects other parts of the game too. And this is just how it presented itself here. And we can see a similar issue in the next bunch of clips, which are all about power armor and how that is bugged out too. Now, the reason why I'm going to show so many of these is that power armor is something that you regularly use. You will get so many fusion cores. The limit on your fusion core count is actually how much they weigh, because inventory weight is such a big deal. And you will see clip after clip here of this just being glitched to shit. So I will be able to jump into it without it opening. It just will not open at all, even though I trigger the animation to start. And I will just clip right through it. But this isn't the only glitch that you'll see with the power armor, even though it is the most common one. I don't understand how something that every player is going to use time and time again was in such a poorly tested state. And I don't know if this would happen in Fallout 4. I'm not sure. So the other glitches that we're going to see are ones where the armor plates will vanish before I turn the wheel. That happened a fair amount. And of course, this time is when the armor opens. So it's like, no matter what, you're going to get a glitch. Yeah, so that was kind of weird to see. Yeah, it vanishes and then it comes back up again. And even this set of armor does it too. It's not just that one ultrasight set that does it, although that was the most common one. But that's not the only bug too. There's more than these two bugs. But we'll see some more of this right now. Oh, this time it didn't work. Not only did the armor spawn, it also clipped right through again, which is just fantastic. So I think this is the first one where it doesn't even show the animation at all. I just use it and then suddenly I just warp into it after a second. It thinks it's playing the animation. You can see the delay, but it doesn't happen. So that's just great. So this is the third bug associated with power armor. But don't worry, there's more. So here we have Mandalore climbing into an invisible set of power armor. He told me, I think, that it did the same for me when he saw me climbing into it sometimes, and then it just appears. And then here he is doing it again. Just fantastic. And of course, we saw that Slender Man issue earlier. Here it vanishes when he gets out of it. And there was someone else here too. You can see the head pop up here, which is creepy. Woo, floating head. Same thing. And this is one where I got stuck in the animation. So I have used the power armor and tried to climb into it. And I thought this was another glitch where it was going to resolve itself after the animation tried to play. But no, I'm stuck here right now. I can't move. My UI is gone. And I can't get out of this. It won't let me. So I'm trying to look at the map to see if I can find a way out of it. I'm trying to use my weapon wheel. And I'm thinking at this point, oh, okay, it's crashed. You know, I can't, or, well, effectively crashed. Like, it's still running, but I'm going to have to restart the game. And the way I got out of it was just trying everything. And we'll see here that I think I try to fast travel and it won't let me, because I'm over encumbered and I can't drop my items. But I do get out of it by opening the emote wheel. Just on a whim, I thought, hey, I should try that out. And when I tried an emote, it broke me out of it and I was able to move again. And did I learn my lesson or did I try? No, I didn't learn my lesson. I tried to get into it and it opened up and I was able to climb into it. And those are all the power armor glitches. Something that you'll be using probably multiple times for every hour that you're in the game. And that's how bugged it is. So just excellent. Continuing this theme of things that are reliably bugged, which just should never happen, those words should never go together, are the cargo bots. Now, these cargo bots are activated. You can already see it's moving out or moving around like crazy. These cargo bots are activated by using a requisitions holotape at a satellite station and calling the cargo bot to come drop you supplies. It doesn't make any sense, the items that they give you in these boxes, but I think it's supposed to be set up from some military installation that is still running since before the war. So you'll see in every single clip that there's always a problem with these guys. They will either jitter as they come down, or they will teleport themselves into the floor. Here, it's actually in there before I could move toward the box. You could see that I was hitting something invisible on the floor there. That's because the robot was already on the floor before it appeared. No matter what, these would always present themselves with a problem. Even when you think, oh, this is the time it's going to be great, it's coming in smoothly, there's not going to be any issue, this is the time that there isn't going to be a bug. Nope, they find a way. Here we go. Oh, it's moving around like crazy, and then it drops the crate. These get worse as they go on, surprisingly. So I look away and I don't get a good shot of it teleporting into the ground again, unfortunately. Yep, there it goes. I don't understand how it's every time that this happens. Here we have one that's in the distance, and it's on an angle for whatever reason, and then it drops it, and then I think it goes on the floor again with these robots that are waiting to get the supplies. And then, I must go, my people need... Oh no, it moved away, and then it teleported into the ground. And just fantastic. Oh man, it's so good. I was so happy whenever I got to summon one of these because it was just beautiful every single time. So this is near where you first see your Scorchbeast in the story. Is he going to teleport into the ground again? Is it going to happen? Why am I even asking? Of course it's going to happen. So the smoke here looks okay, which is weird because smoke in the game is usually bad. So here's an unrelated bug. Even animals can't handle these properly. Just run right through the crate there. And here we have some of my favorite ones. We have the floating crate. What happened here? No idea what the story is. I wish I had seen this drop. And this one is to do with a Brotherhood of Steel quest where it showed up and it doesn't have a box. That's intentional. It's not supposed to have a box. I'm supposed to go up and I'm supposed to install something on it. So I'm going to go do that now. And you would think that this is a quest one. It's going to work properly. It's going to work flawlessly. I removed some ammo when I did that. And it just vanishes. Great. And here we have another floating one. I wish I'd seen this one drop. I wish I'd seen it drop. And this is the best one. The best one. So I didn't see this one drop, but the crate is stuck in the floor. And then it... What? What? And... Every time. I'm sorry. There's no commentary there. It's just me laughing. Oh, that's so great. I love that so much. Okay, so you may be wondering, is anywhere safe? If you're away from all the NPCs and the cargo bots and power armor and enemies and quests, is there anywhere that's safe? The server's running well. What could possibly happen when you're out in the middle of nowhere? Well, it turns out just running around has its problems. So sometimes when you're moving, you will just hit something out of nowhere and you will be stuttered. And yeah. So I was very careful whenever this happened to look around to make sure I hadn't taken a bullet from something nearby, even though enemy awareness is very low and that shouldn't happen. But every time in these clips, there was nothing around that possibly could have done it, except for maybe one that's questionable. So this one is a blood splatter on your face out of nowhere. That would happen too. So I don't know if maybe this is a glitch that it's meant to hit you and stutter you, but that's not happening. Here, yeah, apparently there was something in that doorway that stopped me. And we have one here too. Yep. Just even walking around is glitched out. So I have no idea what's causing this. Maybe there are invisible enemies. Maybe there's invisible enemies dealing invisible damage that also doesn't show up on your health bar. No idea what's causing this. These were hard to find in the footage, but I made sure to make a note of them because they were just so strange. Every single time, it would just make me stop and look around and think, what the fuck? This is the one that's questionable because there are fireflies around, but they don't deal damage to you. They're passive enemies, so I doubt it. This is the best one, and this is after I went back in the game after being mostly finished with the last video, and I went in to play it after the patch. I am running through this rainy forest, and not only do I get stuttered, it completely knocks me over like I took a massive, massive hit. So yeah, what's happening here? If you have any ideas, please let me know, because this is one of the ones I am most curious about. What would cause the player to take, not damage, but take a hit that staggers them out of nowhere? I'm really, really curious. Now we have some floating stuff, which is just a great title. I think that'll just be what the section is called, floating stuff. So here's a floating pile of meat, which is what a corpse turns into after some time. Here is a flare that's hanging in the air. This one's special, unexpected. Here we go. So if you see something floating in the air and you have a rifle, you're gonna, with a scope, you're gonna look at it, and there you go. And now it's gone. Here are some UFO plates that are floating above these towers. Obviously, they're meant to be connected to the top of the towers, but they're floating above it. I just think it's funny that both of them are like that. They just copy and pasted one to the other, and it still didn't work out. Here's a floating rock. These are nitpicks, of course, but they're still funny. Here's a floating sloth that's not on this tree properly, and we'll see an even better floating sloth here, which is nowhere near the tree. I don't think he can float on those strangler vines, or hang on the strangler vines, so yeah, there he goes. Good job, sloth. Here's someone's corpse doggy bag floating in the air. And here's a Wendigo floating in the air in this cave. This is for a quest. And here are some robots floating in the air around this factory. And yeah, who knows what's going on there. This one's hard to see. There is a ghoul or a skeleton that's floating in the air there. It's going for a flight, and I will slow it down and show you zoomed in. That isn't, a big bug, but I just think it's really funny, so we're putting that in there. And behind this house, we will see a tree branch that is floating in the air that isn't connected to a tree. And like some of the other glitches that we've seen, I wonder how many of these I didn't see, because I don't really look at the sky all that much. I'm usually looking at stuff around me and on the horizon, but that's not fair. It's not fair to say, oh, there's probably tons more of these, I just didn't see them, but it is fun to speculate. Somewhat related, we're going to be looking at pop-in terrain now. This one we're starting way earlier than we're going to see the pop-in, because I want to prove that I didn't fast travel here. So I'm walking quite far away from this location to get there, and we're trudging through this forest, and then all of a sudden, there we go. That was the worst one. That was the worst pop-in terrain in the game. Here we're going to see a bridge pop in, and here we're going to see the toxic wastes pop in here. I think there's 2 layers to this one. There's the first one with all the toxic lights coming on, and then you'll see it happen again in the background. Now, some of this is acceptable, and you just have to meet the game halfway and think, okay, you can't have everything loaded all the time, and there's going to be levels of detail that they're going to have to scale back to for the game to be able to run. But I think there are better ways of doing this, especially since they've been more successful about it in other games. So here, depending on where you're looking, it's trying to make it so it doesn't have to render these items, I think, and it thinks I'm not able to see them, but I can. So something isn't set up here. If I look back the other way, stuff will disappear on the other side too. So this area is really glitched out. This is an example of something that is most acceptable, the trees becoming, more fleshed out as you get closer. But it is very distracting. But I don't know if this is fair criticism. Just like some of the Z fighting here with the water on the stairs. This is probably okay, But yeah, the house, I guess I'm more critical of it when it's a building instead of just the land. Like this tower flickering in and out here. The monorail system around here had a lot of problems too. There must be a better way. But this is definitely not the biggest problem here. Part of this lake is missing, and then it loads in. And we'll see the same thing for the shoreline. Yeah, see, that's pretty bad, right? Here too, as we jump over, it's really distracting. It really pulls you out. Maybe there isn't a better way of doing it. It's not just terrain, though. We have pop-up weapons. So here we go. My favorite thing about these is that it looks like the weapon spawns above the character and they catch it. I love it so much. In this one, the super sledge appears and he holds it like a rifle for a second before he holds it properly. And then the next one with the combat shotgun is sort of the same thing, where it looks like the character catches the weapon being thrown to them and they were preemptively holding out their arms for it. Just great. Just great. Also a bug that happened in Fallout 4 as well, if I remember correctly. So that's one that's persisted between the different games. Next up, we have about 10 or 12 examples of something that might not be a glitch. It might be a deliberate change, but we'll discuss it as we go. And this is enemies not having the right weapon after you kill them. So he's holding an axe right now, and after you take him down, it is turned into a lead pipe. This one is a cockroach, and he is going to be wielding no, it's the super mutant that comes behind. He's holding a board, which turns into a sledgehammer. This one has an axe that is a switchblade. That's not even close. This one's an assault rifle that turns into a 10mm pistol, if I remember correctly. Yep, there it is. This one is a shotgun that turns into a charging laser sniper rifle. This one is a machete that is a knuckle duster. You probably think this one is a pitchfork, but you're wrong. It's actually a spear. What I'm wondering here is that maybe the server can't maintain consistency between the weapons that the enemies are using, and it doesn't really care what they're using all that much. It doesn't keep track of ammo that they're firing out. It doesn't keep track of damage types that well. It has to for certain perks, but maybe those perks are glitched out and don't work. You know, there's perks that make it so you take less energy damage, and maybe those don't work if you tested them. But it seems fairly apparent that the server doesn't care about what weapon they're using during their time alive, and then what you can loot off their corpse. And this might be deliberate to make the server run better, that if the server doesn't have to keep track of that, it can just assign some loot to it at the end, and it doesn't have to worry about consistency, and that might make it easier on it. What's disappointing is that part of the appeal of Bethesda's open world games is that if you see an enemy with a specific item, you can kill them and then you can loot it afterwards. Any armor that they're wearing, you can pick it all up, you can break it down, you can make it your armor instead, same for their weapons. And it's going to be rare, but there are times where you might prioritize taking down an enemy so you can take their weapon. If you see an enemy with a minigun, you might go over and kill them first so you can pick it up, use it, and then drop it after you're done. Same for maybe a missile launcher, but I think that's pretty rare, and that's not a good piece of criticism to include in the video. But hey, I said it anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people will agree with that and think that's an important part of the game. What makes this hard to nail down, though, is that when an enemy is wielding an unusual weapon, like a pool cue or one of those big heavy weapons like a missile launcher, 9 times out of 10, they will have that on their corpse when you loot them after you've killed them. Whereas the more ordinary weapons like an assault rifle or a 10mm gun or a hunting rifle, those are the ones that are usually the wrong ones when you finally kill them and loot the bodies. So I wonder if maybe it prioritizes some enemies that have unusual weapons and the other ones it just doesn't care and it just says, hey, whatever's there is whatever's there. So that's all I can say about that. Related to these weapons is an issue that I only noticed when putting this video together. I never saw this in the game itself, so some of you might think that's unfair criticism because if I never noticed while playing, it doesn't count. But it's still interesting to point out, and that is weapons that are completely busted and exploded on enemies as they're using them, and we'll be seeing those starting now. I'll be doing some freeze frames so you can see this better. So here we fight 2 Scorched, we kill the first one, and then we hit the second one, and you will see the pipe pistol has a spring part and the bullets just floating in the air outside of the gun. And that's the best one that we'll see. The rest are way worse. So here you have part of the gun, the shotgun, just floating right in the air next to it. And we'll see this one where way more of the pipe pistol is floating in the air after we kill it. Sometimes they would be floating no matter what. Sometimes it would be after I killed them. The killing blow made the gun explode, which was really funny. So that one was pretty bad there too, another pipe pistol. Here we'll see a 10mm handgun, and the first frame is before it dies, it's fine. And then the second frame after it dies is that it explodes. And the cherry on top here is that in its inventory, it had the wrong kind of gun. We'll see a few more of these here with shotguns exploding after the enemy dies. Before death and then after death, there you go, it completely bursts open. And you'll see some more of these if you have been paying attention throughout the video. This is a fairly common issue and it's something I could probably fill a lot more time with, but it's not the most interesting thing to see, especially when it's such a widespread problem. So we'll move on to something that's a lot more entertaining, which is duplicating heads. This didn't happen that often, but I'm still going to point it out because it is just that entertaining. So a head spawns after you do a headshot, but it doesn't remove the first head. So there will be 2 heads from the same enemy on the ground, which is gorgeous. So this happened at least 3 times. At least we'll be showing 3. So yep, there's the head. It spawns off of the corpse. And now there are 3 heads from 2 bodies. And here's the third one where just one shot, boom, and there's a duplicate head on the floor. next to the corpse. Wonderful. What's causing that, I wonder? What's causing that? Having seen some more of these Scorch bugs, maybe we should move on to like a miscellaneous category, the Scorch Special as it's called in my list. So here we'll have a Scorch appear in the background from its resting state, just standing up, just appears. And we'll see headless Scorched that are also naked, and then they warp up like that. This is probably caused by lag, but this is an even more extreme version of what we saw earlier with Scorch stuck in sort of idle animations until you get close. Here, they're not loading in properly. So missing heads, missing clothes. Here I do VATS and breaks it out of it, I think. Yeah, VATS fixes it, so it's probably a visual bug and not on the server's end. Not sure. Here there are two headless, naked Scorch that appear and then vanish. They must be embarrassed because they got caught naked. I don't blame them. Here's another one that I think fixes itself when I get close enough. So I don't know why that fixes it, whereas VATS did it last time. Oh, this is a ghoul. This isn't a Scorched. This shouldn't be in here. This is a ghoul doing a half-assed T-pose. Yeah, alright. Oh no. This video lacks consistency now. I snuck a ghoul in with the Scorch. That's not good. Here we have one of my favorite glitches in the game. Absolutely stellar stuff here. So this is a... Do I even have to describe it? Like, it speaks for itself, right? So this is a bunch of naked Scorched. So when I first saw it, I thought this was just one naked Scorched that was in this state. And as you can see, I'm shooting around it, and it just doesn't care. It's not reacting at all, and I'm really close to it now. So Scorched Leader and Scorched Warrior if you get close enough. So there's at least two. I didn't notice that when I first got here, though. I thought it was just one just mutated Scorched. And we'll see another bug in the same area because, just one isn't enough. Here is a headless Scorch that's also naked, reaching out. You can even see through their neck hole to see the ground through them. And I make a really, really big mistake here. As you can see, I shoot this guy and it knocks him out of it, and then I can attack him. And the big mistake I do is with the other monstrosity that's on the railroad tracks here. I should have shot it to see what would happen, but I had more ambitious plans, and I decided to use some of my fragmentation mines. So I laid a trap down, and this obscures the big reveal here, and I wish I hadn't done it. I wish I just shot him with a shotgun. But here we go. So I'm laying down some mines to see what can happen. And surprise, surprise, as the smoke clears, it was way more than one. It was 4 of them all together in the same spot, all into that mutated mass of Scorched, which is one of my favorite bugs in the game. Here is a section that shouldn't have its own section at all. Door bugs. So we're going to start off with one of my favorites, which is in that same room we saw earlier with the entrance to the Enclave bunker. Now, why this is one of my favorites is that when the door opens, it snaps open so fast that it seems like the server is in on it because those papers go flying. It's like it really did physically open from one state to the other, and the game reacted to it instead of it just being a visual glitch. I love it. I love it so much. Here's another one that does the same thing. This is a sliding door that just opens immediately, but there's no debris here to go flying. Here are a bunch of doors that the server thinks are open. So when I go to open them, I close them instead. At least that's what I think what's happening here. So yeah, that's 2. And here is a third one. Sometimes enemies will be able to go through doors because the server thinks they're open and you can't for whatever reason. At least maybe I could have if I had tried, but I never tried walking through a door. So yeah, why would I? But more fool me. So here we go. An enemy just goes straight through that door without opening it because the server thinks it's open. I'm guessing, not sure. And then I go and open it, but now they can't get through. So yeah, inconsistent. They have to open it. Same thing here with enemies just clipping through as the door opens. And here a Scorched opens the door like that, which is just beautiful. Here I attack the door because I'm scared of it because one time a door hurt me. Yep. Yeah, doors are very dangerous in this game. And here we have a door that will open in a direction depending on what you're looking at it. So if you look at it from one direction, it will start to open in that way. So if you turn around quickly as you go through, the door will match that and open toward you, which is, like, again, it's one of the very small bugs, but they all add up into this mountain. Now we have 2 sections back to back that shouldn't need their own titles, but we're going to be looking at fire and rain because, of course we are. The first one is a flamethrower trap that spawns this weird visual artifact whenever it's active. This is when I was playing with Mandalore, and he saw that too. These weird shiny shapes that are in the fire. I think this was the only place that this happened with fire, but it was consistent. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry to say I don't know so much, but I have no idea what's going on there. But this wasn't the only glitch with fire. Sometimes fire would be creating light, but there would be no fire where it should be, so it's just missing. But then you can find the missing fire out in the middle of the wilderness here. There's just fire. So there's no voice of God speaking to me from this fire, so I'm assuming that is the fire that we just saw that's missing. It also doesn't do damage, and this will be a trend. There's a great amount of fire in this game that will never do damage to you. You can just walk straight through it. We'll be seeing more of that in just a moment here. Yep, there's some fire in this factory that just will not hurt you when you go over to it. So I think the visual is there, but the effect isn't. I think that's what's happening here. Here's some more fire in the same way. It's just there, and just walk right through it. No damage. It's no big deal at this point. I'm used to it. Here's the first fire that I found that wouldn't do damage to me, and I would stand in it and just looking real cool standing in this fire. And then I think I call Mandalore over and say, hey, does this do damage to you? And we pose for our album cover in this fire here. And last one here is a ghoul that just randomly catches on fire. My weapon doesn't have a fire effect. That ghoul just decided to catch on fire. That one might be something that I don't understand. I'm willing to propose that there's something there that I don't understand. Maybe there's some buff or debuff it had. I have no idea. There's another fire bug that we'll be seeing later, but now we're going to move on to rain. Most of the bugs involving rain are that it rains indoors. So at first we're going to be seeing the visor reacting to the rain falling on you, even though there's a roof above your head. There's a theory I have about this that we'll talk about later involving rooms, but yeah. And we'll be seeing, I think, 2 examples of this with the visor showing rain when we are indoors, and there shouldn't be rain falling on us. At least we can't see it. Maybe there's invisible rain here too. It fits with the rest of the game. It's raining inside. But sometimes it actually really is raining inside. So we'll go down here, and we'll go in this room, and we will see rain coming through multiple floors of this house. So you saw a quick flash of there in this room. I don't think I noticed when I was playing, but then there's this room, which has bug lighting as well. And here we go. It's just raining through this ceiling and another ceiling above, because this is the basement of a house. And it's raining in this room too. So that's just fantastic. Here we go. We're hanging out in the rainy basement. There's going to be some more things we see later about bugged rooms. And basically what I think is these rooms are considered to be outside because the rooms weren't put together properly. So the game thinks they're outside, so it's letting the rain fall through. It's not recognizing the roof. And here we have another one where, depending on where you look, you will see rain. So if you turn around, you'll be able to see rain, and then it despawns as soon as you look at it. The whole room is like this. That's pretty bad. I don't remember this room being that bad. Wow. There are other things like this where if you don't look at something and then you look at it quickly, there will be some sort of visual glitch. Here you have the robes on these mole people that are moving when you move back to it. It's like the physics on it resets when you're not looking, and then when you look back at it, then it falls. There were many coats like this in the game that did this. Oh, we've seen a few examples of this one. Oh, here it's a bag. So the bag is there, and it slowly falls through the mattress, and you look away, and it resets, and you look back, and there it is. Just kind of messes with your expectations a little bit. Here's another coat flap on this guy that died on a chair. Yeah, just awesome. And here's something that some people might not think is worth pointing out, but I thought it was interesting. And this is smoke. So smoke is the same way. Smoke comes out of a spawning source from fire or on the ground, and if you're not looking at it, it won't spawn. But the problem with this is that there's so much smoke in a lot of scenes that if you're looking away and then you turn back, you will actually see it begin to rise out of the ground, and you might even see some of the smoke lingering in the air from where the trail has lifted off into the sky. And again, this isn't a big issue. It's not like the game is ruined because of this smoke issue, but it's so weird, and I don't understand what's happening, as always. I have no idea why this would be acceptable, but the error in reason that I'm making is that I'm assuming that the game was tested at all, and maybe it wasn't. So maybe this is one of many issues where they had to cut down what the game did for the server to work, but I have no idea why the server would care about spawning smoke in areas. This is just visuals, so My guess is that I'm putting too much weight on that explanation to do with the server, and this is something else entirely. This is just something that wasn't tested enough. Moving on to smoke, we have some messed up shadows, which is related to smoke because usually it's on particle effects in the air. So here we have the portal to the bear dimension, as Mandalore called it, where you can see the shadows being cast off of the scaffold and the giant excavator here, and they are being caught in the smoke that's rising out of the ground, and you can see that they're all messed up. This was fairly interesting, and there were multiple places in the game where this happened. And we come back here after the sun moved to see what they would look like because we thought that maybe it would be a different set of shadows on the smoke here. And it turns out that we were right. We come here later, and now we can see this bush here. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on YouTube because YouTube will process the video to be able to be streamed, but I hope it shows up at least a little bit with these bushes here in the shadows. It looks kind of cool. Other sources of smoke in the game have the same problem. As we can see here, there's a lot of flickering, or at least it looks like flickering, but it's really shadows trying to be caught on the smoke. We'll see another one here with the headlights of my power armor. You can see the particle effect, I guess, of, I don't know what it is actually, but there's shadows being caught in the light. This one probably won't show up on YouTube, but it looks like ghost branches are caught in the beam of the headlight. It actually looks pretty cool. I like the effect. I wonder if there's something that could be done with that in a game on purpose. This is clearly a glitch. Here we have some more messed up shadows, but this time it's in a different way. So this whole area is spawning, instead of the shadow of the ghoul, or sorry, the scorched, it's spawning this weird mix of the terrain instead. Once again, for what feels like the 1000th time here, I have no idea what's causing this. It's like the shadows are coming from the wrong source or something. So after looking at this for a while, I think I switched to third person mode, and I realized that it's happening to me too. It also depends on how close I am to the enemies. They're normal shadows until I get close enough to them, and then they turn into this weirdness. And it's only moving things. As you can see here, it's happening to me too. Anything that's stationary in the area is fine, but anything that moves has this problem. And as you can see, as I jump, it casts a bigger shadow and it makes more of it appear. And as I move around the place, the shadow changes, like it's moving from a different source. It's very weird. Very, very, very weird. I don't know what's causing this again. That seems to be my go-to phrase whenever I need to fill some silence in the video. I don't know what's causing this. So here I get out of the power armor, and the power armor shadow is fine, but my shadow isn't. So I wonder if I could find a way to move the power armor, if it would have caused that shadow too. So here I'm in a different area, and you can see that the shadow has changed. There, Scorch just appears out of nowhere, but I don't care. I want to see if my shadows are still messed up in this area, and they are. And here's the wilderness around it. Quite far from the area, you know, it's a minute or two away, and the shadows are still messed up here too. So here they look like trees, quite a few trees actually, so I don't know what's going on. And here I go back to the theme park, and it's a different area, and this looks like a weird broken circle shadow here. Just for a break, we're going to be showing some dancing NPCs. So here are some dancing mole rats, almost certainly caused by lag, but here they go. They wanted to kill me, but it's sort of like that video, if you've seen it, of Super Smash Bros. Where there are 3 or 4 people playing Captain Falcon, and when the music cuts to a part where they'll have to say, show me your moves, to the beat of the music. And it's like these mole rats are trying to kill me, and then suddenly they get to a part of the song that they can't help but dance to, and they're stuck dancing. And then they snap out of it, and then they go back to trying to get me again. I hope at least some of you have seen that video, because that's a great video. Yeah, so here they are, just dancing. This was very entertaining. I'm pretty sure I was laughing quite hard as I was standing on this car playing the game. It was funnier live because it's just another one added onto the pile. Here it is from a different angle. I've left the safety of my car, and yeah, they are just dancing away. They don't care that I'm shooting. Just dance. There they go. They're shaking their butts. I wonder what song they're hearing. It's probably something good. Something by Beyonce. And here we have a headbanging Scorched. Just in the background, there he goes. And then the other one kind of joins in for a second, and then they want to kill me because I interrupted their dance party. Now for something on the Scorchbeasts. This is a... I want to say it's a serious glitch, but is it? I don't know at this point. I don't know if any of them could be considered serious glitches at this point, because a serious glitch implies that there's a bigger problem going on, or it wrecks the game, when really they all join in to wreck the game in their own special way. So these Scorchbeasts are bats that were mutated by nukes that fell in the surrounding area, but Appalachia wasn't actually hit by a nuke itself. So they have mutated and have this area to be the apex predators, I think, and spread their scorched hive mind. So as you can see, they send out these sonic volleys at me. This is not intentional. This is the glitch. You've been seeing this glitch the whole time. This is only supposed to last at most 10 seconds. And this is going on for almost a minute. Not only is this an excessive stream of consistent damage coming at you, it also makes the enemies really hard to see and shoot back at. So in the end, I think I just gave up and let the Scorchbeasts do this when they got into this state, and just waited for them to be done or land on the ground and then hit them with melee weapons. That's what I gravitated toward over my playthrough, was being a melee guy with my super sledge and my Junkie's fire axe, which does more damage when I do a power attack. It was one of the best weapons that I found in the game outside of that Vampiric super sledge. As you can see, this is just a mess, right? It's just constantly coming down over and over and over again. This is not the way it's meant to be, and I know that because this didn't happen all that often. I think it happened with almost every Scorchbeast that I found, but maybe only once. This one is special and did it multiple times throughout the whole entire fight that I was engaged with him in this forest here. And I wonder if maybe it's something to do with a pathfinding error, that he couldn't find a place to land, so he was stuck just doing this sonic volley over and over and over again. I mean, if this is intentional, if this is the way it's meant to be, then that makes it even worse. It's better if this is a bug, because how was this considered to be compelling gameplay? That, oh, we're just going to have an enemy just fly up in the air, and for as much criticism as Sin the Dragon in the Dark Souls 2 DLC gets for flying up in the air often and you're not being able to attack him, at least he doesn't do damage while he's up there, whereas this is just ridiculous, just constantly pelting you with these sonic blasts that make it so you can't even see. Yeah, this is really, really bad, and I hope that it's a glitch, like I said. So I'm just going to let this play for a little while longer. I wish I had included an example of it working properly. Maybe it was at the beginning of this section where it shows the Scorchbeast doing a quick volley, but I'm guessing that some people might have forgotten about that as a reference by now, so maybe I'll put another one at the end, or I'll repeat that one so you can see what it's supposed to look like. I think this one right now is the longest volley that it was. This looks like it's over a minute in my list here, and yeah, it's 1 minute and 14 seconds. I just moused over it. That he just consistently does this volley blast, and I'm just eating through healing resources. I think this was before I got the Vampiric sledge, because otherwise I would have been hitting the blasts out of the sky with my Vampiric sledge, trying to heal as they're coming at me. But instead, I'm just eating through all my healing resources. I tried to make these different sections flow together and be related in some way. So we just saw a bunch of projectiles. So now we're going to look at suspended projectiles, which are coming from normal enemies and are very, very weird. So here we have these ones from these anglers that will just, it's like Kylo Ren is in the forest somewhere, just holding them in place. This happened consistently with these enemies. We'll see it again here in this third clip, where it just hangs in the air. And then this fourth clip here, we'll see one hit me before it should. There's also going to be another one that spawns in the air here. And then this one ignites me before it hits me, before it's even close. I'm already ignited while it's still in the swamp, pretty much. And we'll see a few more of these as they're sort of intended to be, but yeah, they're hovering as they land, so there's something wrong with how they despawn after they hit enemies, I think. Or if they don't hit anything, they're just going to hover there for a while. Missiles from this launcher have the same problem. They will hang in the air. Sometimes it looks pretty cool, actually. It hangs and then it goes forward, but it might be a little hard to see as I move around here because I'm trying to fight. But there will be a accumulation of these missiles that build up in the air as the fight goes on, and you have to pay real close attention to see them. Sometimes they stop closer to the Scorchbeast that they're meant to be fighting instead of just next to the launcher, and they will hang there and then they will move, or they will explode in midair. So this culminated in a great moment where the Scorchbeast died and just slammed right into the building, and then all the missiles in the air behind it exploded. You see all the flashes now. Those are all the missiles that were hanging in the air from the whole entire fight. Now that the Scorchbeast is dead, they're like, oh, what do we do? Oh, I guess we just die. Here's something that maybe shouldn't be in this category, but oh well. This Assaultron is doing a laser blast that is hitting me even though it is nowhere near me. There it is. It's doing damage right now, even though it's hitting that wall. I turn around to see if there's anything there, and there is nothing. It's still doing damage, and then as I get close, it snaps onto me finally, and the visual matches the damage. These last two will be hard to see. The first one is questionable. It's this big robot that's spawning a projectile that spawns more projectiles. And the problem is that it doesn't match up. So they're spawning all over the place where they shouldn't be. It doesn't make sense that it's supposed to be one big projectile that splits at a certain point into smaller ones. And as you can see here, it's spawning way too many of them in this forest area. And then it fixes itself after I go down there. It's just carpet bombing the whole place. This glitch is when I went back in after the patch went in, and I didn't notice this until I slowed the footage down, but now I have to show it. So this super mutant throws a grenade at me, and we're going to go frame by frame here. So thrown grenade, here it comes, and you can see the grenade coming toward me in front of my face. It's almost about to hit me, and then it despawns, then it comes from behind me, then it's coming close to me, then it despawns again, comes from behind me again, goes down on my butt, then up to my head, then toward my shoulder, then it's about to hit me, then it despawns again after the next frame. Where is it? And then it explodes at my feet, even though it's not there. So, I don't know, I kind of want to see that again. So, with the grenade that's just magically bouncing all over the place, and then it goes from in front of me to behind me, then it vanishes. It looks like it's across the grass near the super mutants when it comes to the indicator, and then it turns out it was at my feet the whole time, and then it explodes, which is gorgeous. Just an amazing, amazing bug, and I'm glad that I slowed the footage down to see it, because it confused me at the time, but I didn't realize what had happened. Moving on from vanishing grenades, we're going to look at vanishing items, which are usually legendary items. So I have this special Fat Man that I drop, and it's gone forever, which I don't really care about because I didn't want this item, but it happened again earlier with an item that I did want. So I was trying to get Mandalore to pick up this item because he hadn't got a legendary item yet. Every time you pick up a legendary item, it does this, hey, you got a legendary item, big ceremony thing on the screen. So I want to see what happened with him, and I dropped it on the ground, and it vanished. It clipped through the floor, and it was gone forever. And as you can see, it worked the first time. I was able to drop it and pick it up, so it's not a problem with legendary items, but it went away forever. And that was actually my best melee weapon at the time, so I was pretty bummed that that was gone. And I shouldn't have took the chance, I guess, but I didn't think that dropping an item on the floor would make it disappear. From warping items, we're going to go to warping enemies now, which is probably lag. So we have this guy that does this sidestep here that looks pretty cool. Then we have this Snallygaster that moves when I look at it, like it was in the wrong position and it's embarrassed. And then I take a couple shots at it and it doesn't react right away. Here we have the Himiko robot that teleports just once. But not to be outdone, there was another robot across the map with the Tea Time quest where it acts like it's the shopkeeper from Majora's Mask at the beginning. As it's talking to me, it just keeps moving around this room between dialogue lines. It's going to go to the left now. There it goes. And it's going to do a line. And then it's going to teleport again. And it keeps doing this throughout the whole conversation. And the whole time I'm just bewildered and really enjoying myself because this was the first time I saw this kind of bug. And I was like, okay, just even this isn't right. How does this happen? How does this happen? But yeah. This was entertaining. There's another robot here that approached me in the wilderness and thinks it's going to explode, and it wants my help fixing it. And after it tells me that, it despawns, appears on the ground after flickering one frame standing upright, and then I fixed it and we both went our separate ways. This is a firefly that vanishes and goes into the ether somewhere. See you later, firefly. Still flying, man. They're still flying. This next one is one of my favorite bugs. It's this cockroach that I shoot. It does a matrix dodge, and then it's on the floor where I was standing. So it's like it tried to switch positions with me and failed. So I don't know what's going on there. I love this one so much because it's timed so perfectly when I shoot at the cockroach and it just vanishes. It's just fucking great. Here's a fog crawler that has some great moves when it comes to dodging my gunfire. it's going to be all over the place. I think this one was shown in the previous video too. It is a jump up in the air there, and then it snaps all the way behind me, and then it continues to jump around a bit as I'm shooting at it. This one is a vertibot convoy, so you see one in the distance there, and it's stuttering forward as it's moving. I try to shoot at it, which I don't get. And then there's a second one, which is stuttering in the same way, just not doing well. And then there's a third one that its propellers aren't moving for whatever reason. And then I shoot at it, and this one I land a shot on it. I think the third shot I finally get it. And that gets the propellers moving. But it's still stuttering like that in the sky. For whatever reason, it's, I don't know where they're going. They seem to be on some sort of mission, but stutter, 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 like they're marching to a glitched out beat. Maybe it's the same music that those mole rats were hearing earlier. There's one more clip in the section, which is this is a great one. So there's this bunch of mole rats over there, and their burrow is bugged out. So I'm looking at them, I shoot it, and then he decides to burrow. I love this so much. And here it comes. And then it's a burrow vanishes. There's a frame where you could see it, and then it just appears out of the side of your vision with this like rah. I love that one so much. Sort of related, I guess, is some pathfinding issues, because the way that mole rat emerged from that burrow is completely messed up. First, we're going to see a Scorch that knows where Mandalore is. It's got its wall hacks activated, and it's following him through the wall. Then we have a bunch of mole people that know I'm here. I'm in danger, as you can see. I'm crouched and I'm in danger, which means they know where I am. And for whatever reason, they will not enter this tent. So I don't know if they're trying to intimidate me, or if maybe there's some story that happened inside this tent that makes them scared of it. Maybe they just really hate anything to do with camping, but they will just keep going around and around this tent. See, they know I'm here. They're looking at me, and now, oh no, he's seen us. Run away. And again, these other two mole people will just run right past the entrance, and they won't even consider coming in. And then I go out and fight them, I think, but I'm not going to show that. Somewhat in the same way is that these ghouls won't come into this corner of the room, which I found by accident as I was running away to try to heal. So they have me cornered. They could have killed me, but for whatever reason, there's this part of the room where they won't cross. And what kind of game would have zombies that can't cross parts of rooms? That would be terrible, right? There's no way that would be considered a really great game if there were just these arbitrary lines on the ground where zombies can't get you. So as you can see, there's going to be a bunch of them here. And I test it because I've noticed, and I will run into this corner, and then they're all like, "Oh, where did he go? Oh, he knows the rules. We can't get him." And they all leave. And I don't know if they're trying to path a different way or they're going inactive, but there's something about this corner that they just will not pass. I don't know. I have no idea. In the Whitesprings, there are some paintings on the walls that will vanish depending on the angle that you look at them. So as you can see, I'm moving back and forth here, and the paintings are peeling in and out of being visible as I'm moving around this room. So I'm testing this out to see if it happens with anything else in this area. And they're not bad paintings, but yeah, they vanish when I get a certain distance away. But it's not just distance, it's also angle. So as you can see, I'm way further away from it now, and I can still see it, whereas the problem was there when I was way closer on the other side. But then I noticed this one on the left has the same issue as I'm experimenting when the ones in the main hall, and then I go over and I look at those, and there's part of it that vanishes as you get close. And it's matched with the pace that you're moving to. It's really weird. Here's another one in a room on this wall. Depending on where you look at it, it's the angle here, not the distance. And this is my favorite one. So there's multiple ones that are showing up and vanishing as you're moving around. But there were 2 or 4, I can't remember if it's 2 or 4, we'll see in just a second, that no matter what angle I looked at, they wouldn't show up. So they're just appearing as you're going. How the hell did this happen? All right, so there's 4 here, but there's only 2 that are glitched out. So I'm trying to get these 2 to appear, and I can't make it happen. And then I just try something. I'm like, okay, what if I jump? Oh, just fantastic. Fantastic. Oh man, that's the word of the video, huh? Fantastic. That's great. Here is a glitch that happened in a power plant, I think, where my super sledge broke, and the super sledge damage went on my fists instead of the weapon, so it just transferred over. Now, what was really weird is that my fist damage also went onto the next super sledge, so I'm going to hit this guy here, and it does next to nothing. It's doing no damage whatsoever, and this super sledge is a decent weapon. And it took me a little while to notice this because I moved on to a different super sledge after the first one broke, and because I always carry spares, and I was like, why am I doing no damage all of a sudden? And then I took it off, and then I'm hitting them with my fists, and there you go, it's doing super sledge damage. So, so the damage value switched over. Now, if I had been intelligent, I would have realized that this was a good thing, and I could have had unlimited super sledge damage on my fists for the rest of the game, or until I logged out. But then I decided to see if I could fix it, because as you can see, it's still broken with super sledges. So I dropped them, and now my fists are doing normal damage. So it makes me wonder if it was just an equipment error that when I was using my fists, if the game thought I had the super sledge on and the damage values weren't reversed, it's just a visual glitch that was going on. That when I thought I was just using my fist, I actually was holding a super sledge according to the server, and it wasn't until I dropped them that it resolved itself. But who knows? Who knows? Now that we're around 2 hours into this and about to look at the final set of glitches, we're going to talk about something else instead. And these are things that I don't think are bugs, or they might not be bugs, but I still think are worth bringing up, and I would like to discuss them. And the first one is one of the simplest things in the game, and that is that your photo ID card that you take a picture for at the beginning of the game never updates its level. I don't know why they would put a level there if it wasn't going to update as the game went on. This could be seen as, oh, you were level 1 and you took the picture and that's what it put down, and that's what it set there for you. But that doesn't seem right to me. This seems like something that should be updating as load screens go on, but yet it's just stuck at level 1. So again, not sure if that's a glitch, but it is questionable. This is probably going to be the Bethesda's bug section where you really can't tell no matter what. Here I'm fighting a glowing ghoul that takes quite a few shots. Now, in Fallout 4, you could use any weapon to blast off their legs. Shotguns were the best for it, and make them immobile so you could just shoot them really easily. And this is something that's another example of how combat is made significantly worse in 76, even though it's mostly the same system, because you can't do that in 76. You can't blast off limbs until an enemy is dead. So this tactic that you could use in Fallout 4 and teach yourself as a way to handle bullet sponge enemies, you just can't do in 76. It just makes the fighting a much lesser experience in all of these little ways. So this is when I first discovered the Enclave base, and I went in there hostile and tried to fight my way through. And you can't. These turrets are invincible. There's no way you can destroy them. And the robots spawn forever, and you can't loot them. You don't get any XP. And I don't know, I thought this was questionable. I think maybe they should have made it so they disabled your weapons when you go in there instead of wasting your time trying. It's weird, though, that the Enclave AI will speak to you as if you're still friendly throughout all of this. So no matter what, there's something going on here. You know, it's telling you to take your picture and approach the terminal so it can talk to you. Meanwhile, its robots and turrets are just going to town, just hammering you as hard as they possibly can. And there's no way that you can win because, like I said, they're invincible. There's no fighting your way out of this. Believe me, I tried. This next one is just funny. It's a note that you find, and it's supposed to lead you to go and find some treasure. But it uses just... like... I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but it just uses a method of just pulling the item that they want you to go and find and just taking that name without context. So here, I'll read it out for you. PD, I heard from a wanderer that there's a small family holed up in Watoga Municipal Center. They seemed friendly enough, she said, but unwilling to trade even though they had spare armor, like leather right arm. So this is obviously like a placeholder thing where, or a variable in for the note that can be anything that they want it to be, and it just takes the name of the item that they want to spawn there as a Radiant quest style thing. But it's just so ridiculous when you read it out loud. Who writes out, yeah, they have the good stuff, like leather right arm? Like it's just stupid. It's just really, really stupid. This didn't get any refinement, I guess. They didn't go in and test it a little bit, but it's still funny, and I'm glad that it's there. It made me laugh when I found it. This one is one of the few stat checks that are in the game that just show up as a box that you're supposed to read and then hit OK. and it's just surrounded by enemies, and I can't remember what the resolution was here. I think you're just supposed to understand that it's a bomb because you have perception 2. Like, wow, congrats on putting 2 points into perception. Here's your reward. You're so perceptive that you found this with your whole 2 stat points. Yeah, and then it explodes. So there was another guy here, so I don't know if he ruined my chance of disarming that bomb, but we'll never know now. Just such a weird way of doing it. Like, there was only one other stat check in the whole entire game, and it just shows up in just a text box like that. Like, how did that even make it in? Who decided to put that there? This one is just a brief look at this crashed space station that I think is one of the most interesting locations in the whole game, and I just want to point out that there's nothing to do here. So, missed opportunity and maybe cut content or unfinished content. I have a feeling that there are a lot of unused assets in this game that are just sitting in the files that were meant to be implemented and they didn't have time. So just like a lot of the enemies you're not going to see much in the game, there's assets that you never see at all that they didn't have time to finish. So again, offline mode, patch it up and finish it. I think the game could be pretty good if you did that, Bethesda. Not that anyone from Bethesda is watching this, but I just want to repeat it anyway to make myself feel better. Poor crashed space station. This one is another ridiculous note that someone scribbled on this piece of paper on top of the safe. So there's a key to the safe, and people were living up here, and they're about to be raided by super mutants. So I just want you to understand the thought process of this guy. Hey, super mutants are coming up the tower to kill us. Let me write this note. Hey, idiots, want to get into the safe? No problem. We threw the key off the balcony when you were coming up. Saw it land right on top of the shitter outside. Pretty sure you walking bricks can't read, so good luck, assholes. Who would write this? It's just for the player to go down and find the key. Who would do that? Who made this quest and thought that was reasonable? So here's another unreasonable quest that involves looting a locker at this location, and I was here for quite a while trying to find the locker that had a bunch of stuff in it that was worth looting, when all along I just had to look at this locker and take out this paintbrush, which would then trigger the item reward for the... What? There were multiple areas that I tried to do this earlier in the game, and I didn't realize that it was just a random locker that I had to pick up, so I missed the quest, so... Oh well. So this is a Bethesda's bug hardcore. So this quest is about guarding this robot as it sprays this special chemical onto the crops to see if it'll make them grow better. You're completing a task that was set up from before the war. It's Bethesda's bug because partway through the spray, it becomes fire. So the spray ignites and starts spraying fire all over these crops. And the robot seems to stand there and be like, yeah, this is fine. This is how it's supposed to be. And I have to wonder, is this supposed to be funny? Is this supposed to be, haha, the wacky robot is setting the field on fire, even though the fire isn't spreading at all, and no one's reacting to it at all? Or is this the spray of the chemical that they're testing glitching out and for whatever reason randomly turning on fire like the other glitched out fire that we saw earlier in the video? I have no idea, and I love that I have to wonder, and I love that the fire does no damage, which, you know, again, it's like, is it meant to be fire, or is it just meant to be chemical? Just great. Here we go. Let's see it one more time. So big spray of chemicals, and then, oh, there it goes. It's like the chemical catches on fire afterwards. It's not like it's not like it becomes a flamethrower. It's like after a little while, the spray catches on fire on the crops itself. So maybe it's making the crops spontaneously combust. If it is, then maybe it's intentional. Maybe it's supposed to be like that. Oh, I think it was doing damage there. First time for everything for fire. The fireworks. This one is scary. I don't like this bug at all. So this is the setup for the second clip. So here you go. Evan Aji would like to join a team. All right, so this is not a bug. This is not a glitch. I'm going to let this run because I think this one is going to be unbelievable. So we need to set this up for the next clip. So he just invited me to a group and I'm ignoring him completely. Just not even going to bother. So here I go, and I'm just going to walk around and try to clear these enemies at this airport so I can claim this workshop. And I'm sorry that this is going to be a little dull, but it's really important that you see this. So Evan Aji is nearby, and I'm just ignoring him. I don't want to group with him at all. I'm thirsty now. There's the thirst meter. And we're just going to go on for just a little bit here. Maybe I'll speed it up, actually. I'll put up to ×2 speed. And then it pops up. You have declined the team invitation. So standard stuff. Now, what you'll see here is that there's nothing else that shows up after you have declined the team invitation. All right. So nothing else shows up. We'll leave it for a couple more seconds so you can see that. Nothing else shows up on the screen. I'm just attacking these super mutants. And then we skip to the next one. So someone else invited me to your group and I'm ignoring them, and we'll see it show up here. You have declined the team invitation. Now, what's special about this one is after declining the team invitation, it adds the person without my consent onto my friends list. Friend added. So declining this team invitation made this guy add to my friends list. It's not that I'm added to his. 0 string 380 is added to my friends list after declining the team invite. I really don't like that. I don't like that people can force themselves onto my friends list by just sending out team invites. Very scary. I don't like it. This next one is a little hard to see. So you'll see in the capital letters on this note that there's a big space between the capital letters and the lowercase letters in some of the words. So only, volunteers, Dasa, Delbert, Kesha. Did anyone look at this before it went in? What's going on here? There's no way that's intentional. Here I'm about to call for one of those bugged out cargo bots to bring me supplies. And this one I just want to point out because the blood texture is just like straight out of GoldenEye 64. There's nothing else I want to say about that. I just wanted to show you that because it just looks so old. This one I'm unsure if it's a bug or not. It's some sparks that are flying in this, I think, a cranberry bog area here in the southeast part of the map. Is this supposed to be attached to one of these mutated plants, or is it meant to be hovering in the air like that? I don't know. This one is about the amount of quests that you have on the right-hand side of the screen. You can go into your Pip-Boy and you can deactivate quests so that side of the screen is cleared up. But there's no way to deactivate them and still have them on the map, unfortunately, which would be the way that I would prefer to do it, so I can clear up my space on the screen but still have them when I open the map. But as you can see, about a quarter of the quests on there right now are from Mandalore G, and there is no way to get rid of those on your screen that we found while you're in a party. The only way that they vanish is if the person in your party does the same thing that you do and removes them from tracking in their Pip-Boy. So if everyone that you're grouped with decides that they don't care about having their quests run off the side of the screen, you're just shot out of luck, I guess. You're just going to have to live with it. I'm going to point out that there may be an option that I missed somewhere, but I couldn't find it, and I did look. But yeah, as you can see, I'm removing my quests right now, and they're going away, and Mandalore is telling me that they're vanishing from his screen, and I think they're flickering on my screen now with his quests as he is messing around with it. I have no idea why that quest area is so large on the map. That doesn't seem like it should be that way. Yeah, so you just have to live with having quests from people in your party. Yeah, he's removing them now if they decided they just don't want to do it. So once again, why was this a multiplayer game if it doesn't have the most basic multiplayer features? Like push to talk was added in later. How does a multiplayer game launch without push to talk? Or like everyone has an open microphone. Like what were they thinking, and were they thinking at all? I have no clue. This is an odd one because it should be apparent to anyone that listened to these holotape logs as they were putting them into the game and arranging them so that the audio file would play when you activated it. There are very long gaps between people speaking in these tapes that feels really awkward and feels really unintentional. Now, there were some that worked fine, but this one and a lot of the ones around the starting area had these really long pauses like this that I'm going to let play, and you can just hear for yourself before we move on to the next one.
The old ways are the good ways. I want you to... If I may interject, Sergeant, that'll be all.
These clips are just proving what I said earlier about legendary items always showing up with this big ceremonious presentation whenever you pick it up, even if you've picked it up multiple times. I don't think this happened in Fallout 4 because you got the same kind of thing in Fallout 4. So there's a flag on these items that isn't being ticked over when you pick them up, or maybe it's because it's multiplayer. They expect to have to do this whenever someone else picks an item up if they pick it up from the floor, if you drop it for them. So yeah, every single time you get to see this when you take it out of your inventory. This is a room full of radioactive waste that is causing radioactive mushrooms to grow around it, but doesn't do any radioactive damage to you. There's no radiation in this room. They forgot to put the radiation in here. And I would think that maybe that's an intentional kind of, maybe someone put it in there to fake someone out for not going into this cave. But the radioactive mushrooms growing around it makes me think that, no, it's meant to be radioactive and they just forgot to put it in. This one probably isn't a bug and is acceptable, but I just think it's funny that these mole rats are burrowing up onto this wooden kind of patio thing when there's no ground underneath it. This is suspended in the air, and they are still managing to tunnel their way up here and make a big clump of dirt as they do. But yeah, I just thought that was funny, and it was worth including real quick. There's this air underneath this thing below us right now. And the last one that we'll talk about in this Bethesda's bug list isn't a bug at all. It is the completely bonkers quest that ends the responders line that involves going through a cave full of Scorched to finish fire breather training. So the fire breathers have taken over a fire station in the southern part of the map, and they are the responders' fighting force. So they are taking people and training them in order to fight back against the Scorch. So the responders had a lot of people on their side, and they wanted to train up a militia. And their training was to send groups of people into this burning, smoke-filled cave with dozens upon dozens of Scorched. And this was their first time fighting the Scorched, to go down into the depths of this hell, hit a button to prove that they got to the bottom, which makes even more Scorched appear as you have to keep on your toes and you have to expect the unexpected trainees to train them to go out and fight Scorched in the real world in better conditions than this training. Now, two things that are really funny about this is that there are a series of holotapes that you will find as you go down here that are like a horror movie of the trail that they've left behind. We're gonna get through this. For the fire breathers, this is our moment to shine, and we're gonna get through this. And oh no, Timmy's dead, and he will not be forgotten. And the whole time, it's like, this is training. This is their first encounter with the Scorch. This is what the fire breathers have set up to. Sorry, it's just so ridiculous. This is what the fire breathers have set up to recruit people to their cause, and yet this is the drama that they're going through. And the second part, which I can't confirm because I couldn't find it, so maybe I made this up, so you might want to ignore this, but I'm pretty sure that I read this somewhere or it was in a holotape. No one ever successfully completed the training. Which makes sense considering that the corpses are still down there unless the Scorch Plague hit a critical mass when these fire breather trainees went down there. Or maybe these are one of the first ones that ever did it, and the higher ups of the fire breathers were like, well, yep, this was too extreme, we need to dial it back a bit, and there's the guy who masterminded the whole thing is sitting across the room with his arms crossed like, well, I thought it was fine. The game even warns you with some of its robots, this is going to be extreme, but don't worry, remember your training and you will come back alive. Yeah, it's beyond ridiculous that this was written in this way, and unless the game is in on the joke and I'm not picking up on it, which it might be, I don't know who thought this was a reasonable quest to put in the game and a reasonable bit of world building, I guess, about the groups that lived in Appalachia after the war. They all die. All 4 of the trainees die, and you find all their holotape logs next to the button that you're supposed to push down there, and that's the training. And Mandalore and I had some choice things to say about that afterwards, after we were done with that quest.
You're learning how to drive, so we're just going to put you in the Formula 1 car.
Yep. Yeah.
You can't handle the most dangerous of driving conditions. You shouldn't have a license.
It's like the fucking Descent. Look at this shit.
This is the fucking... It's Mayron's Dagon down there? What the fuck is this? You want to be a Scorch? You want to be one of the fire department people? Well, close shut the jaws of oblivion, you dense fucker. Just go in the Mayron's Dagon Tower. All of Cyrodiil's counting on you. I hate this. How is this the training?
But if the strike-through robots, strikebreaker robots were here, doesn't that mean they've been here since the bombs fell? How...
Unless the post-apocalyptic people were mad their jobs were being replaced by the robots?
Well, we know that there were a
wanna
lot of
work
them
in the mines?
because they were able to sacrifice them in their fucking fire breather assault course. So yeah, maybe there were just maybe they had population problems.
There were too many people. There were far too many people after the apocalypse. We had an overpopulation issue. After the nuclear bombs fell, we realized there's too many people here. So we have to sacrifice some for our raging overpopulation. Oh good, there's a workshop quest. Exactly what I wanted.
We have 3 more sections to go through now, and the first is miscellaneous visual glitches, which we will see and I will try to speak about as we go through. So this made me think that my graphics card might be dying because this looks like textbook artifacting when your GPU is overheating, but this is the only time that I saw this happen on a Scorched. I think it happened in a nuke zone with an animal's arms getting really large, but I couldn't find that in my footage, and I think it was really hard to see because it was just bouncing all over the place. But I'll take another look and see if I can find it and add it to this section after I'm done recording. This one is a God Ray coming through a mountain, which many people have spoken about now, and it's been dubbed Todd Rays because they make no sense, and I thought I should include one in my video just for the sake of it. This is a river that is glitched out that you can see parts of it. The water wasn't put together properly. This is just out of alignment a little bit, and we'll see more sections of this river that have the same problem. I don't know if this part that's dry here is part of that. I'm going to say yes. That doesn't seem right to me. But yeah, so over here, that doesn't look right. You can see under the water, but that's probably acceptable. That's probably okay. And here there are seams in the water that haven't been aligned properly. And we'll see more of these as we go down. You're not supposed to see seams like that in water. That's not good. Not good at all. And then the river kind of just dries out a little bit, which is okay. Here we have power armor. This isn't worth going in here. It just looks funny. He's like, yeah, I did it. I did it. As he's falling, as he's caught between both of these power things. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. Here you can see the sky indoors on this sort of chemical looking water here. Yep. Don't know what's happening there. And here the windows are changing lighting as you get close, kind of like those paintings that we saw earlier. As you get close and see it at a different angle, the window will light up. And Mandalore could see this too, so this was baked into the game. It wasn't just on my end, and there was something similar that happened in the Rose the Raider area with the sky. So the sky is changing depending on where you are. And the light even starts shining brighter through the holes in the cloth that's draped over too. I didn't notice that when I first saw this. Yeah. Those were all the miscellaneous visual bugs that I couldn't find a category to put in. And here we have some miscellaneous weird bugs that I also couldn't find a category to put in. And weird is definitely the best word for it because these first set that we're going to see. So as I pick this up, I'm going to lose a bunch of shotgun shells, 10mm rounds, and .308 rounds for picking up some wood. And you'll see this a bunch of times. I picked up a silt bean and lost some shotgun shells there as I'm fighting this Mothman. I'm going to use this computer terminal, and as I leave it, I'm going to lose some shotgun shells. I have no clue. Here I mine this crystal outcropping, and I lose a 45 round. So, yep. And similarly, I loot this iron ore, and I lose a 38 round. So, sometimes when you're looting things, you will lose things. And again, sorry to sound like a broken record, I wonder how much of this stuff I missed as I was playing, because it's kind of hard to catch that, whether or not you're losing ammo when you're picking things up and you don't expect to lose ammo. This is a glitch that I mentioned way back early on in the video where you can get stuck on crafting stations. I'm done cooking now and I would like to leave and it won't let me. So when I tab out and I hit space to exit, it just immediately puts me back into crafting. And I think that's 3 times now, 3 or 4 times. And I finally get out of it, and now I'm free. And now we're moving on to the next one, where it happens again with a different crafting station. So I'm crafting, and I decide, hey, I actually don't want to craft, so I'll leave it. Nope, you're stuck on it. No, I really don't want to craft, thank you. No, you have to do crafting. You're ours, we've got you forever. And then I get out of it. These next 2 clips are some cows that can walk on water. And when I get close to them, they're like, oh shit, he's noticed, quickly fall in the water. Yeah, just funny that I wanted to show. This one happened more often as the game went on. When I would load in for the first time, it would say that my level is level 1 at the bottom of the screen. It was there for just a second. And then I look at my level in the Pip-Boy, and I'm actually level 51 or level 60 or whatever I actually was. But it gets worse because as I run up to an enemy that's nearby here, so just to go through it again, I started out at level 1, then it shows my actual level in the Pip-Boy, but it didn't show what my XP was. So then I will go over here and I will kill a scorched guy. And after I do that, then it resets my XP to show what I actually am. So there's, I think, 3 layers of glitches there. This one is a little hard to see, so you want to keep your eyes on the compass in the bottom of the screen. So I'm approaching this location on the map, and occasionally it will leave the compass, so it won't be there. So as you can see, it's going to vanish in just a second here. It's the circle with the tear through it. It's a Scorchbeast nest. Yep, it's gone. It's not there anymore. And then it's going to come back as I get closer to it again. And then it vanishes again. So this makes me wonder if there are some locations on the map that I'm supposed to get to, but they don't show up on the compass when I'm nearby. There were some locations I found that I felt needed their own location on the map, but I was surprised that they weren't. There was a Stonehenge monument made out of wrecked cars in the northern part of the map that I was surprised didn't have a location tied to it. So I wonder if there are some missing, and I also wonder if there are some locations that I never found because, for whatever reason, they do have a location tied to it, but they weren't showing on the map when I was close. These kind of glitches are really bad for that because they make you wonder what else is going on. And it's not a good thing to hone in on one mistake. Oh, one mistake proves that the whole thing is busted. It's sort of like if you can prove someone wrong on one thing, that now you can sit back and think, well, if I prove you wrong on one thing, then everything you say is suspect. That's not a good way of thinking about things, but I think it's valid here considering just how glitchy the rest of the game is. And it's something that I do wonder about now, how many missing locations there are. This one is one of my favorites. I think it's in my top 5. This is a Deathclaw that has the wrong name. It is actually a traveling merchant. Just lovely. This is one of my favorite ones. I wonder what the story is here. Is it supposed to be a Deathclaw? Is it supposed to be a merchant? I have no clue, but I love it. I just love the idea of a traveling Deathclaw merchant too. I hope that is in a game later on. I don't care if it doesn't make sense. Just have a sentient, friendly Deathclaw that is a traveling merchant and can't speak and is just like, scree, buy my wares, you know what I mean? Like, that would be great. That would be fantastic. And this is the worst version of the inactive Scorched that I mentioned a while ago. So this Scorched knows I'm here and is responding to when I'm moving, will follow me, has both arms up in the air like she just don't care. Again, maybe there's some music that only enemies can hear in this game. This Scorch is interrupting our date, so I go over there and heal up a little bit as I do with my Vampiric super sledge that I should probably have named Vera or something. So I kill these Scorched and then I go back and resume my date with this special Scorched over here. I'm healing up a little bit because I don't know what's going to happen when I get close to her. I was right to do that because when I do get close, she's able to attack. But she's stuck in place. Now it looks like she's locked into falling, but she's still able to attack. And yeah, compared to the one that we saw earlier with her stuck in a building and she would just kind of awkwardly kind of toothy smile at me, but not react in any other way, this one makes things more difficult to judge because she clearly is capable of knowing I'm here and wants to attack, but something has locked her in place. I wonder if this is a mix of all the different kind of flavors of enemy glitches that we've seen in the game so far. That there's a mix of can't move, can't react, is invisible, stuck in an animation, you know what I mean? And enemies will be glitched out in one of those ways or two or sometimes all 4. And this is just one of the rarest combinations of those glitches, that it can't move, is stuck in animation, but can still attack and is still visible. I have to wonder about that, and here I go swinging, bringing my life back again before I go in for the kill and put her out of her misery. This is one of, I think, 8 glitches that I saw when I went back into the game after the patch. There is a bunch of shit on the horizon here. Here's a vertibot that is in the road, and then yep, okay. And then there's another piece that spawns, and then it moves again, all over the place here. I think this is baked into the map too. I don't think this is something that someone killed. I think this is part of the terrain. And this is supposed to be here. Oh no, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not, because I could loot it. All right, I think I'm wrong there. Here is another cargo bot glitch with another floating box in the sky. Government aid drop, there it is. To see us off at the end of this list here. We only have 2 left. Here is Mandalore, who is heavily damaged, and despite having stim packs, the game won't let me use them on him. Cannot heal him and bring him back to life. He's trying real hard to get my attention. It won't let me heal him, so he dies, and he has to come back to life. Considering that you can just respawn anywhere nearby, rezzing people like that is probably a waste of stim packs, to be honest. So it's probably not worth it. It's still weird that it wouldn't let me use them, though. And this is the last one in this section where I level up, and I think I'm level 20 or so, and it shows me this screen where you have reached level 5, and it's explaining a combat with other players. Yeah, and like I said, I'm level 20 or so, and I've seen this screen before, but it's showing up again, so hooray. After all that, we're finally at the last section, which is a collection of bugged out rooms that haven't been assembled properly. Now, so far you're seeing missing furniture in these rooms, but we're going to be looking at something specific instead here, which are rooms that haven't been assembled on a more fundamental level of that, and that is the walls, the floors, and the ceiling. So when rooms and buildings are assembled in the game, they're not plopped down as a whole thing already. They're made up of pieces. They can be put together. And when I've messed around and stuff with Unity, they're usually put together in prefabs. And I don't know if Fallout 76's system is still in the prefab system. I should probably go over and check the mod tools in Fallout 4, because I think it'll be following from the same information there. But this video has already taken up too much time. So I'm going to assume that you can combine a bunch of different parts of buildings into prefabs and put them down. But what you're seeing here are seams in the different parts of the buildings that haven't been arranged properly. So there are minuscule gaps between these sections of the walls and the roof and the floors in some cases. And because these gaps are here, I believe it's completely screwing up the lighting. And for 2 reasons. It's letting light in from the outside where it shouldn't be. And you can see this in almost any room that you go in, and it's unusually dark and it looks kind of washed out. Like there's been a bunch of like polluted water has been washed through the area and has left like this black film over everything, and it doesn't look normal until you use your Pip-Boy light. So it's letting in light sources from the outside because there are gaps in the wall and it hasn't been properly arranged. But I think it also believes that these indoor sections are part of the outside environment because they aren't sealed in properly. So it hasn't been able to wrap these areas into an interior location. So you'll go from places that have had that done to them, and then you go to these ones, and the game thinks these are outside, which is why you will have rain coming through the ceiling and light coming through the gaps, and also the rooms being really, really dark because it's expecting to have outdoor lighting from the outdoor lighting sources, but that's still being blocked from most of the walls, and it's only just creeping in some of the gaps in the walls here. And we're just going to see a lot of examples of this because I think you guys get it already, and my speculation might be way off here. And like I said, I really should go into Fallout 4's mod tools and see if I can recreate this problem for myself, because it might be unique to 76 and I might be wrong. So as always, I'm not a game designer, and you shouldn't take my words as more important than just me thinking aloud as we're looking at this together. But it is consistent enough that I do feel like I should wonder and see if I can get close to right with my amateur theory. So here you can see the light kind of creeping through the gap in the ceiling here. And I think I'm close to correct with how this works. But anyway, like I was saying, I'm going to let this run for a while. We're only about halfway done now with these examples because I just want to prove how many of these glitched out buildings there are in this game and how poorly this was and how widespread it was throughout it. This is the worst room, I think. You can see so many gaps between the pieces. And there's a corner piece there. that has the roof part of that section. And yeah, I think this one I could see outside through the gaps. Some of the gaps were so large that I could see the terrain outside when I got close to them. And I could even go outside and look in, but it was a lot harder to find the seams on the outside as it was on the inside, because there's no light coming from the inside. So they're really easy to see. I wonder if it was dark here, if I waited here until nighttime, if it would be a lot harder to see these seams. Probably, I think. I want to say that there were at least 100 of these rooms, and I'm going to show, I think, about 30 of them. But just to be safe, let's be conservative about my guess here and say that there were 50 instead of 100, because I don't want it. Yeah, there you go. I can see through the wall there, and I can see some of the foliage outside. Yeah, so let's say there are about 50 of these rooms spread out across the map on the outside world. Wow, that looks even worse there when you're getting close. Like the light is so bright when it's coming through. Yeah, so about 50. Sometimes it presented itself like this, where objects in the room were dark. And here we have, there's no seam here at all, so I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe there is one, I just can't see it. So there's just light in the hallway. And yeah, this is way too dark compared to the other parts of this house. And again, you can see the seams. It became a game that whenever I went into a room that looked bad, I would look around for the seams. There was one on the left there, and mostly I could find them. This isn't a problem. This is just with a seam. This is just part of the roof isn't aligned properly. That one probably isn't worth looking at, but there it is. Yep, just a really, really dark room. Lots of flickering going on in here. Yeah, look at it on the wall there. Amazing. Amazing. So my theory here is that no one tested these, that these rooms were put together and they didn't have time to look at them, or they didn't have time to fix them after they looked at them, because this shouldn't take too long to fix. I got some criticism on the last video saying that I didn't know what I was talking about because yeah, look at the light streaming through these non-existent windows over here. That's amazing. That might be a different bug. That might be that windows are meant to be here, but maybe not. I don't know. I have no idea. That one's amazing. Anyway, like I was saying, I got some criticism on the last video saying that I didn't know what I was talking about because I suggested that Bethesda could change the values on bobbleheads and skill magazines and put more of them around the world within just a couple hours of development. And some people said I had no idea what I was talking about, that's a big project. But I think that they're forgetting that Bethesda has well over 100 people on their team that could work together to make that happen. And also that they are very familiar with this engine, and that's pretty much what modders do all the time with their mod tools. So unless there's something unique to 76 that makes it highly difficult to make changes to the map that they have, maybe it takes a long time to load up the map before they are able to put any changes in. This one's really bad. The lighting is completely messed up on the water here. We'll see this when we get down. But anyway, yeah, like unless there are some problems with that, like it takes a long time to get the whole map loaded to make these changes. Small changes like this shouldn't take long at all, especially considering what modders can do, and they're usually working alone. They don't have the big familiar team of Bethesda. Yeah, I'm curious why exactly these haven't been fixed yet, considering that they should be quick fixes. You know, just go in and just tweak the positions of these buildings a little bit and these parts of these buildings to make it so the light isn't creeping in. So either it is a lot more difficult because of the online nature of 76, which makes me wonder how they've changed anything at all, right? What are they doing if that's the case? Or they just don't have the time or the resources, or management just doesn't care. This is in the Rose de Raider area, and this is technically inside. It's on an inside map. You can't get out of here. So I think that's why the lighting is okay despite all these broken seams. And yeah, once you notice this, it really is rampant all over the entire game. Apologies for rambling a bit in this section. Probably not the most interesting part, but that's why I left it at the end, because it's interesting to me, and this is some of the best proof that I think there is about how rushed and unfinished this game is. But I do understand that it's going to be like the Odyssey video where, you know, you're showing a lot of proof and a lot of people aren't really interested in seeing the proof. They just want to know opinions on what the game is like and more interesting information instead of the evidence. So this is a double bug. There's a seam and also light coming through the wall that shouldn't be there. And this is, I think, part of the responders fire breather space that we were just speaking about. And yeah, the ceiling is bugged and the light on the floor, just everywhere. I don't even think there was one large building in the entire game that didn't have this problem somewhere. Which makes me wonder if it isn't an issue of when they made the buildings that they didn't arrange them properly. You know, they left these little gaps. But instead, I wonder if there's some problem with how they made the pieces of these buildings, that it was broken on that level, because it really is everywhere. It's not user error when it comes to arranging them. It's just something that happened before that. I think there are only like 6 or 7 left, and they're quick clips. More of the walls and the ceiling. This isn't a basement too, that's weird. Wonder if the top one's broken up. And here's a wall brick wall that isn't put together properly. And here's a dark bathroom with light shining through a non-existent gap in the wall. It's a holy urinal there. And I go into the bathroom next to it and it's the same thing. This is the shiny bathroom stall here for whatever reason. And I think this is a cabin that has a really tall roof, or a really high roof. Sorry, a really high ceiling, not a roof. And it's broken all along this side. The whole side is busted there. Here's some lighting that is only showing up as I get close there, and the light moves. Yeah, that's probably an unrelated issue. I don't know what's causing that. That's really strange. And here's another room that's completely busted with on the floor this time. I think on the floor was rarer than the ceiling, but I wonder if I got on top of some of those ceilings in the game. If I went on the roof, there would be gaps there too that I could see. And there's another shot of the pixelated lighting in the water in this room, which is very weird. Very, very weird. And that's it. That's all the bugged lighting room examples that we have, which leaves us with the final glitch that I've been looking forward to ending this video on for weeks now. I gotta tell you, it's a long time coming, and I set it up even in the first video. It's why I've been emphasizing that I've played Fallout 76 for almost 100 hours. It's always been almost and 100 hours. You know, that's a round number, a specific number. And the reason for that is almost like poetry. When I was done playing the game, like poetry, when I was done playing the game, I did my test where I sat outside Vault 76 and I let my hunger and thirst meters go all the way down to 0 because I was curious to see what would happen if they got low enough. Like, would the game kill me if I ran out of food and water? And when I respawned after dying from hunger and thirst, would it refill those meters for me? Like, what would happen? And after doing this experiment, I learned that you get down to 5% of your total HP, and then the game stops dealing damage to you through dehydration and hunger. So after doing that, I ran into the forest and I tried to do a couple of other glitches that I heard about in the game. And as I'm doing that next to my camp, I get an achievement. And the achievement I get is 76 out of 76. You have played Fallout 76 for 76 hours. And I thought, wow, that's great. That's amazing timing, you know? Like I said, it's poetic. I'm done with the game. I'm about to turn it off. I was minutes away from turning it off and you know, concluding my time spent with the game for the video. And 76 out of 76, that's going to be a great way to end the video and show that I played it for quite a long time. Now, some of you may be thinking, Joe, 76 hours is not almost 100. That's pretty far off 100, actually. You know, it's closer to 75. You should have said 75 hours instead of 100 hours. And that's because it was a glitch. It wasn't 76 hours. So the final glitch that I would like to show you is that Fallout 76 can't count. It can't tell time, because when I added up all of my footage spent with the game, all of my recorded footage, I had actually played the game for 91 hours. So it lost track of 15 hours while I was playing. 15 hours is a lot of hours. So I don't know if when the game lags, it loses track of, your time spent, or if the game gets disconnected and you log back in, that you might lose time spent with the game, that it doesn't track that in some way. Or, I hate to say this because it would be ridiculous, but hey, after all we've seen so far in this video, I might be right. Maybe time is tied to frame rate, and if your frame rate dips down, it's not counted as a full second for whatever reason, and that adds up. I wonder if there's something with the ratio of time spent there that we could figure it out exactly how much time has been lost there over for every hour, but that's beyond me. And honestly, I wouldn't even trust the numbers anyway for 76 out of 76 hours. Who knows if that's even accurate on the server side. So that's the last one. And I've been looking forward to ending this video with that glitch. I've been very excited. It's been like the punchline that I've been waiting to get to. And I almost put it in the first video, but I thought it'd be better for this one instead. Yeah, Fallout 76 can't count. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry that this video took longer than it's supposed to. You may have heard a little bit of distortion in the background with my voice recording. That's because there was a lot of storms during the recording of this, the commentary part that I was putting to the video. And the wind got really loud sometimes, and that caused me to lose some days. There's also some happy news about my my wife's third pregnancy during this video, that we took a little time off for that. But for the most part, it was because of the storms that I couldn't record consistently at night, and I lost some time because of that. So yeah, I have no idea if this was interesting or not. It's different from what I usually do on the channel, and it's entirely unscripted, which is doubly unusual for me. And I hope that it was enjoyable, at least a little bit. And I know that some people like to have the videos on as background noise, kind of like treating it like a podcast. So maybe this will be a good video for that sort of thing, because I'm talking at a steady pace for most of the video, and it's new content that people like to have when they're doing something on in the background or something. And I think that's where I'm going to end it. Thank you very much for watching. The Patreon credits should be scrolling right now, and I don't think I have anything else to say other than Fallout 76 was a massive waste of potential, and I am insulted that Bethesda did this, not just to its players. I'm more insulted on behalf of the developers, because like I said in the first video, I think that there's enough proof that some people really, really cared about what they were making here, and Bethesda deprived artists of finishing their art. I know that video games, possibly more than any other medium, are a combination of economic investment and more pragmatic production on top of art. But the art is still there. It's undeniably still there. And yeah, artists were blocked of completing something that they cared about, at least a few of them. And I feel really bad for them more than anybody else, even more than the players. Maybe that's wrong of me, but I really do feel for them. And that's where I'll end it. I don't know what the next video is going to be. There's a lot of small videos that I have ongoing at the moment that I'm building up for the release of The Witcher. So we'll see. It might be Hollow Knight. It might be something else. But yeah. I'm not good at ending. I think you guys are getting that right now. So thank you very much for watching again. I'll see you next time.